All praises, all praises. So, I wanted to really try to do this in the traditional style of the show. How many of y'all do watch the Power Hour Plus? It's all right if you don't. Maybe you will after. All right. Yeah, Bishop is a big support. He actually, I'm going to tell you how the show, the plus version of the show came about. Because we've actually been doing the show relatively shortly after I moved to Phoenix. I want to say maybe within 7 to 8 months after I moved to Phoenix. And our intention was to try to get a local radio show, right? Kind of to gear out and reach out locally. And there was a lot of obstacles and challenges to that. You know, first of all, once you bring up the Bible, everybody gets on guard. And then once they ask you, well, what about the Bible you're going to teach? No matter how tactfully you try to present that, you know, oftentimes they'll shut you down. So we couldn't get the regular radio show slot. So I said, all right, we're not going to let that deter us. We're going to jump on Blog Talk, right? Remember, Blog Talk had its day, but we said we're going to jump on Blog Talk and we're going to create the Facebook page and try to push it that way. We'll do it more like a podcast. And on Saturday mornings, right? So the Power Hour actually is almost 5 years old, okay? And Bishop Yamsop had reached out probably around the summer of last year. It's like, hey, listen, we pushing more shows. We getting everybody set up. He said, I need you on a show. He goes, you know, we got various captains that are represented on the show. He said the deacons all set up, the bishops are set up. He goes, and more importantly, he goes, I know we have the Spanish-speaking Northern Kingdom shows. He said, we need your faces out there also speaking basically in English, bringing stuff up. And I said, all right, let me see what days we can coordinate it, you know. So I got with the captains in AZ. We didn't move on it too quick. I think you probably thought I forgot about it, didn't you? He said, nah. And then, you know, he said, I don't want to bother him. I know the brother's busy. But we got ourselves situated, and then we had our first show, I think, in October. So Power Hour Plus is, I think, officially 1 year old. That's the Wednesday show we've been doing. And all praises to the Most High. I think it's helped us. I've seen how we've grown the following. Brothers and sisters are excited. We've had new people watch us from different parts of the country and the world on there, as was its intent. I wanted to do it in that format today, like we do it, very conversational, but I need my materials for that. If you do watch the show, you know I put up documentaries, snippets from books and stuff, and you know we're in the wilderness, so it's a little challenging to do it that way. Alternatively, this is still going to be a Power Hour segment. We will record it and air it. But there's a class that's been in my spirit for a while. Some of you from Arizona, I started it on Monday Night Law. I did not get to finish it. All right, it was the last class I did. We do a Monday night class in Arizona during the week as well. So I'm going to run it back to the top if you were there in Arizona and not just jump in part 2, but we're going to try to knock it out in one shot. All right. So the topic is going to be pollution in the earth, the conquest of our nation, all right? And believe it or not, Bishop Yalsop, some of this was inspired by what you went over in Dallas when we were out there for the wedding in the beginning of September. So I took some elements from what you were bringing out when you were going over the city of Israel, because I've been meaning to do a class on pollutions, and I said, this goes beautiful with what I'm trying to bring out, what's in my spirit to bring out. So, that's often the case. I tell brothers, we get together, we start talking, and just that's the spirit working in the body, and we just start taking stuff out. People in Arizona know, sometimes I'll do a class there, and they'll see one of the bishops or deacons. They're like, damn, y'all going over some of the same scriptures. And that just gives me an affirmative that I know the Most High in Christ is dealing with us in the right way. We all speaking the same thing without having to plan to speak the same thing. And it's just the Spirit guides us in that direction, all right? Okay, so we're going to start with Micah 2 and 10, all right? I don't want to say it's one of my I got a lot of favorite scriptures, but there's some that I do like quite a bit, all right? Micah 2 and 10. Who's going to read? Who's reading? Soldier. Okay, all right. Go ahead, sir. Soldier Obadiah?
Yes, sir.
All right.
The book of Micah, chapter 2 and verse 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest.
Right. So we are commanded to realize that this is not our rest. One of the things with tabernacle, those of you who were here in 2019 when I gave the tabernacles class, I emphasized the significance of tabernacles as a reminder to us, like you read in Exodus, that we were strangers in a strange land as sojourners, right? It's supposed to remind us of our journey in the wilderness, all right? Even this is a form of the wilderness for us as well, because this is not our rest. What was that emphasis in the wilderness? We went into the wilderness before going into the land to purge ourselves from the corruption that we had coming out of Egypt. What are we doing here as well? Purging ourselves in America, in the different parts of the world, right? So that we can prepare ourselves for the wilderness to come before the kingdom, right? So the wilderness has a lot of different significance. And tabernacles is a reminder of that, right? It's a time where we get together every year and we get to reflect on that fact, right? Where we're not supposed to make it our rest. Because as we'll go over in this class, the pollutions in this earth will seduce you, will deceive you into believing that this is your rest. And there's many manifestations of how they do that to us. So we are to arise and depart, for this is not our rest. Come on.
Because it is polluted.
Because this place is polluted. The Most High has given us a reason why this is not our rest. This place has not yet been cleansed. You know, they'll tell you, oh, the earth's going to end. The earth ain't going anywhere. It's just going to be clean. It's going to be sanitized by the sons of God. All right? That's right. With the Messiah leading the charge. He going to give that first salvo. And then we coming behind that to finish up that cleansing. I'm going to say it the nice way. We know there's destruction, but we're going to continue the sanitizing of this place so that it's fit for our people, so that it's fit for in that rulership. So it says, because it is polluted. Come on, and with that pollution, come on.
It shall destroy you.
It will destroy you. And it has destroyed our people. Those pollutions have destroyed us. The majority of us, now in these last days, we're coming out of that, right? We're operating in a state of mind where those pollutions, we're fighting those things off. Come on.
Even with a sword destruction.
And he says, not only will it destroy you, he goes, it's a sword destruction. So the earth in its present state is polluted. This is why we cannot rest here. So let me get the definition of polluted. Where I'm not going to be able to share it with y'all visually. All right. And those of you who see my class, I like to do a lot of definitions. I think words definitely have power. And the Bible and the way the Most High used the men that he did to write the Bible, he was very deliberate in the words that he used. Every word. Right? You know how Christ said, not one jot, not one tittle will go away? Every little word, every punctuation adds significance to the verses that are there. None of it is done by happenstance. You know, sometimes you write a paper in school, right? And damn, I got 500 words. Let me add some filler words. The Bible was not written that way. If anything, there's more that was needed to be told. But we don't have the space in the books for it, right? So polluted, the definition of pollute. Actually, first get me the Google one. I think I gave you both, right? So it says to contaminate, all right? Water, air, or place. And I need you to understand both definitions because it's going to be the parallel, right? That similitude that explains our state and our destruction. So it says contaminate. So you can contaminate water, air, or a place with harmful or poisonous substances. The other definition it says is to defile or corrupt. All right? Remember those words, to defile or corrupt. Let's go to the Webster one. And it says to make ceremonially or morally impure. To pollute something can make you morally impure. See, I like Webster because it's that old English. See, it says since 1828. So it aligns a little more when you read the words in the Bible because that's also a tactic of pollution. They try to dilute the force of words in the language and they'll give you different definitions, right? Like back in the day, you read wool and one of the definitions was hair like a Negro. Now you can't find that anywhere. Unless you had snapshots of them old Bibles that said those things, right? So it says to make morally impure or to defile. Can we click on defile? All right. And that's the other thing I like to do. I like to drill down into words so that we can understand them better. And it says to defile something is to make unclean or impure, such as to corrupt the purity or perfection of something. And I need you to remember these as we drill down these definitions, and I chose these specifically because all these words you'll find in the Bible pertaining to our people and what was done to us by the pollutions in this earth. We were defiled. We were debased. We were supposed to be the head, and presently we're the tail. We were supposed to be the princes, and things are turned upside down now. And there's a reason behind that. And it's so critical that as a people, as we come together and unify and start to incorporate these systems and do these type of things that we're doing to build the nation, that we remember these pollutions and that this place is polluted. Because when something is polluted, it means you can't really find the clean in there without filtering some things out. It means everything you touch and everywhere you walk, you can be contaminated. Now, I had a little video when I had showed this in Arizona when I was going over the first part of this. But when on your own time, if you look up a decontamination process, all right, look at a hazmat situation or something, they understand that. So it's very particular how you have to be decontaminated. They understand that you can't bring certain things in to the clean zone if you were out in the contaminated space, the polluted space. And I had showed the video, and they have people there helping them, and they have to first rinse down in one bucket, and then that water that's in that bucket is no good no more. You can't use that, right? Then you step over to another station, and you have to take off part of your suit, right? And then that thing has to be burned. You can't keep it, right? Then you jump into another basket, you get another rinse and cleaning. Then you have to sit down, and people are helping you there with it. And I use that example to show you that's exactly our steps in repentance as the word starts to cleanse us. Because we know the word is what cleanses us. It tells you that in Ephesians 5:26, right? The washing of water by the word, right? So that cleanses us. And that's the same process we go through as we get ready for that pure kingdom that's coming with the rightful king to rule it. To make physically unclean, especially with something unpleasant or contaminating, all right? And I don't think I sent you the one in dictionary, but the one in dictionary says to contaminate with man-made waste. I want you to remember all these key words because I'm going to show you in the scriptures that it says exactly that. Because you don't read about pollution much in the Bible outside of Micah 2:10, but it's important to see these other terms that's used in the Bible to see the state that we're in. And in that, you'll understand the purifying process that needs to happen with us in order for us to rise to the level that the Most High has ordained for us. All right? So now, read Micah 2:10 again, and then we're going to get Colossians 2:8.
This is the book of Micah, chapter 2 and verse 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you, even with a sword destruction.
So this place is tainted, it's polluted, and it's designed to destroy us. All right, let's get Colossians 2:8.
This is the book of Colossians, chapter 2 and verse 8. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit.
So we read that pollution says you can be contaminated by man-made waste. The Bible says, beware lest any man spoil you, lest any man spoil you. Letting you know that those pollutions are constructs of men, of those men that are set up to rule over us now in these times for our transgressions. It says, beware lest any man spoil you. Pollution, if something gets polluted, if something gets contaminated, it's spoiled, right? You can't use it anymore. But it says, a man will spoil you, and you have to be cautious of that. You know, like when you read signs of hazmat areas, it says danger, contamination, radioactive, chemical waste. That's the way we have to see the world as we operate and maneuver through it. So it says, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceits. Come on.
After the tradition of men.
There it is again. After the tradition of men. Man-made waste. Come on.
After the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ.
So it says it's the traditions of men, the rudiments that are not after Christ, going with polluted. All right? Rudiments, did you have that one? I have brought that up. If you don't, I'll just skip through. I think you have it over there on the left. I see the tab. Yep. Rudiment. Rudiment, there's two meanings in this. The first one says a basic principle or element or fundamental skill. So when it says the rudiments of men, there's fundamentals. There's basic principles. In order for any people to function, to maintain, or to get the rule and maintain it, there are principles that must be followed. But the Bible says beware of the man-made principles that are out there. Don't focus on those principles. All right? It also says, scroll down, second one, something that's unformed or undeveloped. So what happens with these rudiments is that they'll take elements of things that may seem believable, right? And only give you part of it. And they'll contaminate it. So, right, they'll take Christ, for example, and they'll give you Christ rather than erase him from your mind, but they only give you a part of it because they'll tell you he's a white man. They'll tell you he came to save all nations. They'll tell you he has no tribe that he descends from. They'll take our foundation and our beliefs and tell you you don't have to keep any laws. That's man-made traditions. Those are rudiments. And those are their foundation for destroying us. Later you're going to see, I'm going to give you some, it's not an all-encompassing list, of some of those strongholds, some of those things, those rudiments that they put in place. And they're right in front of us, and they've been all our life. We just tend to live life so much that we forget the Most High. Even in this walk. I read a quote somewhere, I think I read it the other night when we were by the fire. And it said, I'm paraphrasing it, and it says, when it comes to serving the Most High, it takes deliberate, constant attention to do so. Because when you're so busy living your life, that thing pulls you because it's designed to pull you away from the Most High. That's the pollution that's here. That's the pollution that is here. It needs to be filtered out. So if you don't make it deliberate, if you don't make a concentrated effort to stay in this walk, to stay in this Bible and these commandments, it's very easy, no matter how long you're in this thing, to start to fill yourself with those pollutions, with those rudiments. And remember, those rudiments are that's their foundational setup to poison you, to contaminate us, all right? So it says, you have to think about it. It says rudiments are the first principles of man. So you have this world's principles, and then you have God's principles. Hebrews 5 and 12. So I say all these words, it's important to see the other meanings of them. Because a lot of times we'll hear a word and we'll say, yeah, I know it. But you remember like in grammar school, they say, okay, use it in a sentence. Right? And you can't do that thing right. Like, damn, no, you didn't get it right. So that's why they'll have synonyms for words and stuff like that. And so that you can understand and be able to use it more effectively. All right? So let's get Hebrews 5 and 12, please.
This is Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 12. For when for the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again.
Right? So you come into this walk. Scripture tells you knowledge puffeth up, right? And you want to teach everybody, rightfully so. You have a zeal. You want to bring that thing out. It says, but you have to remember something. When the time comes for you to be teacher, you have need that one teach you again. Come on.
Which be the first principles of the oracles of God.
So there's that word again, principles, right? The rudiments are the first principles, the definition said. But in Colossians, you read about rudiments, and it says the rudiments of this world. So you have principles. This construct, the way remember, they read our Bible. They can tell you your whole history. I was reading Judith 5 earlier. We're gonna go there a little later. But if you read from the top of the chapter, that was heathen that knew our whole history. And they didn't just know that it was the commandments that strengthened us and not keeping those commandments that weakened us. He runs down the history from Moses coming out of Egypt and all that stuff. So they've taken our playbook and they've contaminated it. They've polluted it. Because they said, man, rather than just take it away from them, now they're searching for something. Let's put it right in front of their face, but in a form and in a manner where it's not useful to them, where it actually benefits us, where it actually weakens them versus strengthens them. And now we can perpetuate this rule that we have as we go through this. So it says, we have need that you be taught again, which is the first principles of the oracles of God. Letting you know what I want out of this verse is that you have worldly principles and foundational things, and you have biblical principles and foundational things. And Esau will use this, it's like Bizarro Superman, right? He's Superman, but not exactly, right? So, same power set, same things, just a little bit different, right? And that's what they try to do. So they gave you Bizarro Christ. He ain't the black Messiah with the hair like wool and the dark skin. They gave you the one that looks like a surfer dude, right? Right, because Bizarro looks silly, right? You remember Bizarro. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Bizarro Superman. He was blue. His face was jacked up like he had bad acne scarring, right? He was confused, right? And for all his power, he was emotional. He was like a child, right? A lot of times Superman was able to beat him because it was emotional. He was able to deal with him on a child level. That's how Bizarro Superman. That's what they did with this effeminate Christ that they put in the form of Caesar Borgia in front of us. So they give you some of it in part, but not the whole. They contaminated it. It's polluted. All right, read the top of the verse, 5 and 12 again.
The time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God.
Come on.
And are become such as have need of milk, and not of strong meat.
But again, because this place is polluted, it's always trying to pull you back in. No matter how much you learn, this is why the Bible talks heavily about walking circumspect. Be mindful as you're in this walk. Because you can get on autopilot. As you're living life in this captivity, you'll think that you have this thing locked down, and it'll come up. And it changes the levels in which that happens. It'll start with something simple, and it gets more complex the more built up you get. But there's that scripture where it says Satan is prowling like a roaring, like a lion, right? Like a crouching lion, waiting to see who's going to slip, who's going to fall back from this so he can attack. That's how that thing is set up. Let me get Leviticus 18 and 24, dealing with defiling.
This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 18 and verse 24. Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things.
Right? We're going to talk about what any of those things are in a moment. We are commanded to not defile ourselves. Remember, the first part of Micah 2, it says, arise ye and depart. Can we go anywhere where this place is not polluted? There's nowhere in the earth where we can go where it's not polluted. The Bible tells you the earth has been given into the hands of the wicked. The whole earth. It didn't say North America. It didn't say this hemisphere, that continent. It said the whole planet Earth's been given into the hand of the wicked. So that means every inch of it where you go, it's polluted. And that's not to say there's not some look, there's beautiful waterfalls, there's sceneries. Yeah. That's nothing. It's polluted. When we in rulership, that thing's Niagara Falls, play. That's a faucet.
Yeah.
Right? Grand Canyon, nothing. Mount Everest, nothing. All creation is retarded. And I don't mean retarded like Down syndrome. Like when you retard growth of something, right? It's not till its full potential right now. So there's nowhere in the earth that you could go where it's not polluted, where it's not contaminated. So what he tells us, what he means by arise and depart is don't defile yourself, which we know is also a synonym for polluted. He says don't pollute yourself. Read it again.
Defile not ye yourselves in any of these things.
Right, so don't pollute yourself in any of these things. Read on.
For in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you.
He says all of these things, the nations are defiled. They are polluted, each and every one of them. So when we read the definition where it says pollution, to defile or debase something, is to take something that was morally pure and corrupt it, to contaminate it. That's what those nations are. They're those contaminants. They're that pollution in the earth. And since they're the head right now, that's what prevails. And it's very hard to sift that out. You know, they talk about they got all this plastic in the ocean, right? And what happens is you can't really take it out without damaging the environment. That's why, in reality, what needs to happen while we're here is to maintain the level of cleanliness that we're able to have. You know, they have safe areas, clean zones, right? Israel is that clean zone. When you're amongst your brothers and sisters, right, that's that clean zone. But the minute we walk away from that, the minute we walk out those doors of the sanctuary, it's just pollution coming at you, right? But we must maintain that cleanliness until that thorough cleansing comes from the Black Messiah, right? That fire, some things just got to be burnt. That's the only thing that'll purify it. Some things just got to be killed with heat. Now, water won't even wash it away. Right? Remember, he did it one time with the flood. And he did that in his genius because he knew that it would preserve enough of the earth at that time for him to be able to repopulate it with what was in the ark, right? Because if he'd have done fire then, that's scorched earth. So y'all out here in California, y'all seen what's left of these forests and stuff when something get burned like that, right? There's nothing there to grow. The ground ain't no good anymore. The animals don't live there anymore, right? So fire is a strong cleansing. And eventually in the process of time, right? Because the earth is self-renewing. That's why when they tell you the earth is never gonna, that's BS. Those things come back, right? But, man, you go all over the place with the fires too. That's them too. They're the cause of all that pollution and stuff in the earth that caused that. Anyway, go ahead, read on.
And the land is defiled.
This earth is defiled. So he's letting you know all around you is polluted. He says the nations are defiled and the land is defiled. Come on.
Therefore, I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomiteth out her inhabitants.
Right, so letting you know that they increase more and more. He says vomit. So vomit something else, not a good thing. Right? So he says the land itself vomited out her inhabitants. And all these pollutions are seen all over the place. They put it all in your face. That's called when they try to normalize something. They vomit homosexuality in front of you. They vomit changing gender roles. Deconstructing the Israelite family. Interracial marriage. All that stuff is vomited out in front of you. So meaning it increases more and more. Right? Because vomit come out, you can't control the flow, the timing of it, nothing, right? It just comes in spasms. And it's a lot all at once. And it's abominable. So the Most High is telling you it's polluted, right? I mean, you smell vomit and make you want to vomit. Right? You're like,
The gag alone.
the gag, right? You hear the gag and it triggers something in you. But only if you're in that pure state, though, right? That's how we should look at all this stuff that's out there, this pollution. Come on, read on.
Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments.
Because that's the thing that's going to keep us clean enough until the Most High return his son to the earth. That's the thing that's going to keep us clean enough. So that's why he said, because this place is defiled, because these nations are defiled, because this land is defiled, and it vomited out, it just throws it in front of you. What they call Caitlyn Jenner, right? They just throw it all on billboards and news shows and entertainment things. They put in that thing in cartoons. I think I had said this one time in a class last year, the year before. My daughter was watching something on Netflix, and I don't know, I was making a sandwich or something in the kitchen. And, in passing, in the background, I heard, my two moms. And I went, I said, all right, let me not jump to conclusion. I said, hey, baby, what you watching? Oh, Daddy, it's this show, whatever. I said, yeah. I said, you didn't hear nothing strange? No. She wasn't really paying attention to it, but it was there in the background. I said, just rewind it a little bit. And I said, oh, damn. So, little kid come out. So the show ain't even nothing about that. That's vomiting it in front of you. And they're talking, the kid comes out, both my moms won't let me do the sleepover, something random like that. And I had to take that moment to stop. And I said, okay, I don't want you to watch this no more. Well, why, Daddy? Well, I need to explain this to you right now. And I had to take that moment to deprogram her. You gonna say something, Bishop?
Yeah, that's heavy what you're saying. And you're going over the scriptures in Colossians. I kept reverting back to that as you were going through this. And you're using the example of just happening to catch the statements that was being said over the television, and the child is sitting there, and their God is not 100% up, but the perpetrators of those that wish to defile the entire nation wants to slip it past your defenses. Like your little daughter will be sitting there, your son will be sitting there, and that innuendo of evil and wickedness will slip past their ability to catch it. The father caught it.
Yep.
But the daughter didn't catch it. The son did catch it. And that's the reason why these people that seek to defile our children, that seek to defile our people, like that sick video that I played, I think it was the last time I was in New York, where you had that Edomite guy get up there and talk about
get your children,
right. We will get your children.
He was Edom and homosexual.
Right. They were talking about that. They said we will do it quietly and subtly. That means to get it past your defenses.
And he did it in a song, a catchy tune. He did it in a catchy song.
Yep.
And that's how they get you. That's like back in the day when you would be like, by many. Right. Exactly. That thing was a psychological thing. And you knew that. You heard that. You'd be like, damn, why am I saying that? Right? And so, that they get you in the background.
And you realize when you said it, you said by many. A lot of y'all went right to the commercial, didn't you? That's how these little jingles catch your imagination and take you back there without a second thought. Boom, you're there.
That's pollution. Let me give you an example. Water can be polluted and look as clear as the water in this bottle. Meaning you can't tell. It don't even taste all right until it starts to poison you. Until you start to get affected by it. Right? And that's the level of pollution that Esau has done to our people in the earth. Where it looks clean, smell clean, it even tastes all right. We're not realizing how toxic it is to us. Right? You say the example by men and it took it back to the commercial. You'll see the McDonald's sign and not even smell the food and get hungry. You start thinking about their French fries.
I was in the car. This was in New York. We were driving on, what's that highway? 278?
287?
270. We was on the one you have to pay the toll over the Tri-Borough.
Yes.
We were coming from Brooklyn. And we on that, I forget what that Grand Central, I forget the name of that highway. That parkway. We was on that. And I'm in the van. Remember the van I had? Whose son it was? I think it was one of Asaph's children that was laying down in the seat. And the McDonald's sign was way over there, just the end in the sky. She laying down. One of the kids laying down. McDonald's. I could not believe it. I said, how in the hell did this child see the McDonald's way over there? Laying down. My one was attended in the back. It's a van. How in the world did she didn't? It was amazing. It was the most amazing thing of all time.
And you're right. It is amazing. That's why we can never relax.
That thing was scary.
That's how polluted this place is. We use those examples to show you that. How much the more something sinful that's so subtle as it creeps in. That's why it takes a conscious. You cannot be on autopilot in this world. You cannot. Where were we? What scripture?
Leviticus 18:26.
Read 26 again. Go ahead. We're going to go down to verse 30.
Ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you.
Right, because we were coming out of Egypt. We had the mixed multitude with us at that time. So it says even then. And even that was rehearsal for when, because you brought it out yesterday, how they going to come, they're going to keep the Feast of Tabernacles too. Those strangers will be forced to do so. So the Most High was prepping us in the wilderness, just like we were being prepped here now for that true city, that new Jerusalem that we're going to have. So all the things that we building now, like we went over the talents, right? The pound, and he said, enter into my joy, right? All that stuff, the Most High had that thing set up because you can't just turn that on when you get there. We have to condition ourselves for it now because this place is so polluted. It's so contaminated. So he said, man, I gotta, that occupy, when he said occupy till I come, has so much levels to it. That occupy, when you read it in some Bibles, it's capitalized. And it's not at the beginning of a sentence. It's after a comma. Because the essence of that occupy has all the levels and foundations, the layers of what we need to be occupied in. Right? The simple understanding is keep the commandments, occupy in that. The next level of understanding is go out and teach the people and spread this word like we're commanded. But within that, what the Bible does not have, it shows you what can be done, but it doesn't tell you how it should be executed. The Spirit does that when you come together in righteousness, and he deals with certain people, and then he starts to manifest certain administrations in front of us. The Spirit fills in those gaps. And in my opinion, that's twofold by design. One, if the Bible was written that way, it'd be, the whole table would be filled up with books and books and books, right? Of every step of how you did it. And secondly, he gave the enemy too much information. So the Most High hid that a little bit. He said, you think, you can know their history from A to B. You can try to use this against them. The secret sauce, you're never going to know the recipe to that. You're not going to get the 11 herbs and spices out of my people. Because the Spirit is going to put that in them. Right? So that occupy has a lot of levels to it when it says occupy. And a lot of it is to keep us from being polluted, so that they'll buy Menin, the McDonald's, all those examples that we gave, all right? You'll be able to see them for what they are and not deal with it. Come on, read on.
Verse 27. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled.
Right, so those customs committed before them were the customs that they learned in Egypt, right? So he says, the land is defiled. Read on.
That the land spew not you out also, when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you.
Because if you continue in that, what do you get? That sword destruction. So he says, don't keep these things. Don't do like these other nations did. And particularly at this time, he's talking about us, because we spent 400 years in Egypt. Much like us, having been never knowing this truth, growing up in this world, that ingrained in us, polluted, and not even realizing we were filthy. Not even realizing we were polluted. So we needed something to show us that, a measure of that. So he says, don't do those things. That's how you arise and depart, because you can't physically go nowhere. But he's saying, don't follow the principles of men. Don't follow the rudiments of men. You need to follow the principles of God. And why is it that you must always be taught that again? Because that's the foundation for everything to keep you decontaminated. So we must continue in that. As we continue to progress and get bigger and do more things, that's when you got to even more so realize that we have to avoid those pitfalls. Right? You going to say something, sir?
Yeah.
You know, as you're bringing this history out, this is some good stuff here, brothers and sisters. And you were reading in them scriptures of Colossians 2 and 8. It says, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit. You read other scriptures about not being defiled and corrupted and spoiled. The only way that that's really going to take effect on you is that you have to see the value in yourselves. And you was making a point clearly that when we was in Egypt, we were made to feel less than the nations.
That's right.
Put us in the muck and the mire, had us in slavery and all of that. So work had to be done on us as we came out. The Most High had to make a nation out of us and cause us to think as a nation. Give me Deuteronomy, don't lose your spot. Give me Deuteronomy 7 and 6. This is the reason why this was written here. This was the reason why the Lord told Moses to tell Israel this. Because Israel had to have a new program put into their minds to make them eschew evil, to make them avoid evil, to look within themselves as a new standard on how they were supposed to be about themselves and how they were supposed to be against everything else that was in an attempt to defile and corrupt them. Read.
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God.
This is God speaking to the Israelites. He says, listen, let me point out something to you. This is how he's talking. He said, I'm going to let you know that you are special. You are not like the others. You are not to allow yourselves to be corrupted. You are not to allow yourselves to be spoiled. You are not to allow yourselves to be defiled. That's why the Lord is saying this here. He wants us to get that new program in our minds. Read it again.
For thou art an holy people.
He said, listen, tell them that they are holy. They're not ordinary. Go ahead.
Unto the Lord thy God.
And tell them that they are a holy people unto me. Not just to anybody, but to me. That is supposed to change your attitude. Go ahead.
The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth.
The Lord wanted us to get that thought in our mind. He wanted us to get that feeling in our mind. He wanted us to carry that in us. Go ahead.
The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people. For ye were the fewest of all people.
He says, so listen, I chose you not because you was more than everybody. I chose you, you were the fewest of all of the nations. But here's the reason why I chose you. Go ahead.
But because the Lord loved you.
That's the John 3:16. That's the world that God was loving right there. He said, I did this because I loved you. So he wanted us to carry a specialness about ourselves. That's why he uses those words in the Bible. Thou art a special people unto me. That right there is supposed to put your defenses up against anything that is set to corrupt the status that God gave you. So when you, let me just jump to something real quick. I'm going to give it back to you, Cap. Go to Sirach, because you was reading in Colossians 2 and 8, and it was good that we started there. Go to Sirach 21 and 1.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 21 and verse 1. My son, hast thou sinned? Do so no more.
So we have sinned, we have messed up. But the Lord said, but you are a special people. Yes, I understand that you messed up and you defiled yourselves among the nations. You played the harlot, you played this, and you just mixed yourselves up with all of that. But you're my people, the Lord said. Read it again.
My son, hast thou sinned? Do so no more.
Go ahead.
But ask pardon for thy former sin.
Meaning repent. The other nations can't do that, but you can. Because the Lord chose you above everybody else. Read.
Flee from sin as from the face of a serpent.
This is what I wanted to get to. When you understand your value, when you understand how special you are, anything that comes your way that is set to pull you away from that speciality, that is to pull you away from that virtue, that is to pull you away from that aboveness, so you can understand, to pull you away from what God made you, you're supposed to flee from that thought, flee from those rudiments, all them things that we was reading. Flee from all of those things that are set to pull you back into garbage. You're supposed to flee from that as if you're running from a poisonous snake. So that means anything that comes your way that does not fit within the definition that God subscribed for you, you're supposed to avoid that like it was the plague. That's the reason why, like we were talking about going into Northern Kingdom and have y'all bringing that information out, all that goes with it. All of the lies, all of the deceit, all of the people trying to say this and that. Cut that BS off. The Most High did not bring this truth on this earth for nothing. We got this truth not because someone allowed us to get it. This is the direct action of God that made sure that you got it. And you better not let it go. All right, that was it. That was it, Captain.
All praises, all praises. Let's go back to Leviticus 18. And where were we?
28.
28. You can read 28 again.
18 and verse 28. That the land spew not you out also, when ye defile it, as it spewed out the nations that were before you.
Come on.
For whosoever shall commit any of these abominations, even the souls that commit them shall be cut off from among their people.
We will be destroyed. We will be destroyed because if you commit those abominations, how do you cut yourself off from your people? You're not like them anymore. You're not holy anymore. How can two walk together lest they be agreed? Yes, ultimately that means death. But even before the death, what happens? You're different. Now you're polluted. So now you can't come into the clean zone now. Till you put that behind you. Till you flee from that sin, like from the face of a serpent. And historically, this happened, but guess what we wound up doing? After we read verse 30, I'll show you. We wound up doing it anyway. We were commanded, we were given all the tools, and we were equipped with it. So history is so important because it allows us to look back and learn from those pitfalls so we don't commit them now. Right? It gives us that reference point. So the same way that this was given to us in Egypt, that's the same way it's being given to us now. That's the same way it was given to each and every one of us. I wasn't born in this. I was in the world. I was polluted. I was defiled. I didn't think so. I thought I was a good guy. I gave money to charitable causes, right? You know, I made sure I called my mom once a week. You know, all the things that the world, I paid my taxes. It's like in that scene in The Matrix where he goes, it's that feeling you get when you take out your neighbor's trash, when you pay your taxes, right? And that's the thing. The pollutions in this world actually will make you feel good about yourself, right? Now, it used to be once upon a time, if you were against homosexuality, you were able to feel good about yourself. Now you do it, and you the oddball in the room now, right? Oh, you're not being inclusive. What about me? You're not including me. I don't like that stuff. Where's my inclusiveness? Where's your tolerance for me? That's why this place is so filthy, right? Anyway, go ahead, read on.
Therefore shall ye keep mine ordinance, that ye commit not any one of these abominable customs.
So it's important that we understand that the main thing that will protect us, the main thing that keeps us holy, right? Because holy means set apart, so to speak, right? And like Bishop was just bringing, the other nations can't repent. Only we can. So that's the one thing that we have to hold on to in the midst of all this. Because we all going to be polluted together, right? But we have a way out. We have a process by which we can cleanse ourselves, right? To prepare ourselves for that new Jerusalem. So it says, don't commit any one of these abominable customs. Come on.
Which were committed before you.
Meaning in our sight. Meaning that we see it. Right? I remember I gave the example of my daughter. I heard it in the background. It's not like they hide these things. That's what it means. They vomit it out. It's front and center. Come on.
Ye defile not yourselves therein. I am the Lord your God.
But look at what wound up happening to us. Let's go to Jeremiah 3. I want to start at 2 and then jump to 1.
You know something while you get in that, Captain? The only way you would catch like that thing you call on the television is because of a word that you said earlier. You have to be circumspect. Meaning suspecting it. Meaning on the lookout. You are only on the lookout when you're trying to protect something. A thief that's trying to get inside your house, you're on the lookout, looking out for him because you're trying to preserve what's in your house. That's valuable. You will be circumspect of somebody that's trying to take your house out. So that's how we have to be about ourselves. Have to be about our children and so forth. Be circumspect. And if you're circumspect, that means the minute any level of evil come there, you're going to catch it.
That's right.
That's the point. You will only be circumspect when you know you're on a field of demons. When you're on a field, you'll be circumspect if you're in the military, you got to run through a minefield. You're circumspect of where those mines are. Here you go. He ain't circumspect at all. Every step he take, he blowing up.
Right. Because you back in the base, right? And you're not walking like that. You feel at ease. You feel protected. You feel all right. The difference is there is no safe space here in this earth. It said the whole land is defiled and the people in it. So that's why we have to have that lens on all the time. And you're right. It really is spiritual because the whole show was tuned out. I was like, man, I'm gonna eat the hell out of this sandwich. This thing, man, I'm gonna put this cheese. Oh, I got this cheese too. And then that thing, boom, went off. All praises to the Most High. So you get to a point where just even in the background, certain levels, you're circumspect of stuff. You just hear something and you know. I wasn't like screening her show.
No.
I just heard that thing random. And it like, the spidey sense went up.
Right.
Said, oh, wait a second, run that back. I didn't even finish I left the sandwich there and I said, I gotta address this right away. Because even though she was not paying attention, that stuff in the background will program them.
Right.
It will subliminally program them. All right? Let's get this in Jeremiah 3.
You understand that, right?
Yeah.
Y'all do understand about them subliminal some messages and all of that. A guy that I used to work with, he told me, because he's much older, he was saying that when you used to go to the movies, they used to flash the word Coke or something like that. Who knows what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
in like one frame, like you got 30 frames of a movie.
Fight Club.
Huh? What is it?
In Fight Club, they did that.
I don't know what you're talking about. Say it on the mic.
He said in Fight Club.
In Fight Club, they gave an example of what he was saying. Like they'll show you like a cigar thing, the burn mark in the corner. That's a blip on the film itself. But what he's saying is that they'll flash a word. That's a subliminal message.
Right. The word. The guy was telling me. He said that the word was like have a Coke or something like that. And you're watching a regular movie.
Yeah.
And your regular eye, as you enter the movie, you're not catching it. But it'll flick past the screen, and the next thing you know, people are going up into the concessions and buying Coke.
There's one recent. I wish we were able to pull stuff up. Technology has allowed the common person to slow down the frame rates of these things. So I had seen a clip, it was on YouTube, when KFC came out with their chicken sandwich for $1, right? And the commercial was, of course they put our people, right? So it was like a Judah brother sitting on a bench in like Brooklyn, right? In the front, the stoop in front of his building, and they talk about the new chicken sandwich, right? Innocuous enough. It's just a commercial. So then they showed them slow down the frame rate. You would never catch it at regular speed, and the bottom of the page turns up on the screen, and it shows you $1 bill. So every time he mentioned that it was just $1, but you don't catch it unless you had the equipment to slow the frame down. So it program you that it's $1, and the next time you might not even want chicken, you might not even be hungry, but it's $1.
Right.
And it hit you in the dome, and you never even realized that you were programmed. That's the level of circumspect that we need to try to attain to, because you're not even gonna notice it sometimes.
The Coca-Cola will flick, and like I said, it'll go past your naked eye, so to speak, but your conscience picked it up.
Yep.
And it's aimed directly at your conscience.
Yep.
You're watching a movie or something and they change the music. You don't even notice that the music changed. But all of a sudden your emotions change with the music.
That's exactly right.
That's an example.
You get tense in like a suspenseful moment,
You didn't
right?
even see it coming.
Yep. Yep. That's how they do it. Hey, and I'll tell you something. I used to, when I was in high school, I took like musical theater and all that, right? Mm-hmm. And they give you courses and they explain that. So they would have us go up and do like a monologue or a soliloquy, right? And they'll say, okay, look, all right, do it, right? And you go up, you're acting, you're like putting your soul into it. Mm-hmm. And then he says, now I'm going to play some music with it. People was crying after I did the soliloquy.
I was about to say the same thing.
You thinking you're a great actor. It was probably terrible, but the music, and I felt it. It even changed the way you delivering the scene and stuff like that. Right? We can talk about that later. We'll talk about evil communication corrupts, right? Good manners, all right? That's how it seeps in. That's why the Most High used the term in Micah, polluted. Like I used the thing with the water. You can drink contaminated water and never know that it was bad for you. You can do that with food. I'm big on the food safety. Some people leave food out and be like, just reheat it. And you reheat it and it smell good. It don't smell bad. It's all right. And then later that night or for 2 or 3 days, you're like, man, I wonder why I'm going to the bathroom so much. It don't gotta mean death, right? But it'll affect you some way. But you'll never know that it was contaminated, that it was toxic for you. That's how they get you, those subliminal messages and all that. So we were in Egypt. We were commanded to be aware that where you're about to go is going to be defiled. And the only thing that's going to keep you all right is that you keep these laws, statutes, and commandments and don't try to do after these other nations, right? Most High told us it's polluted. You might not be able to see the pollution because you spent 400 years learning the ways of the Egyptians. I'm telling you, this place is dirty. And the only thing that's going to keep you clean is keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. But what wound up happening? Let's read Jeremiah 3 and 2. It's the same thing, cyclical, that happened to us throughout all the captivities. Come on.
Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 2. Lift up thine eyes unto the high places, and see where thou hast not been lying with. In the ways hast thou sat for them, as the Arabian in the wilderness. And thou hast polluted the land with thy whoredoms and with thy wickedness.
He's talking to Israel here. We're going to read that in verse 1. He says, so now what we wound up doing was we wound up doing the same thing as the other nations, and by doing that, we were perpetuating the pollution among our people. Because instead of being separate and being that example and saying, don't do this, don't do that. Instead of lifting up our fellow, we say, hey, let's follow out. When it says we sat in the way, mean we saw them doing it in the sight of us. And instead of going back like I did when I told my daughter, hey, I'm going to explain to you that this is not normal, though you may see this on the television. All right? We went with it. Read verse 1.
Verse 1. They say, if a man put away his wife, and she go from him, and become another man's, shall he return unto her again?
Right? And we use this. This is a similitude. We use this when we talk about divorce and why you can't go back to a sister. But this is a similitude that he's using here also. Come on.
Shall not that land be greatly polluted?
He's letting you know it's contaminated at that point, right? The milk's gone bad, right? He can't. It's dirty. You gonna go up in there after somebody else's rod was all up in there, right? And who knows what else? What other orifices and stuff? But you gotta make that thing real. To understand how nasty that is. You go and you kiss her. I'm sorry, children, sisters. Another man's rod was in her mouth. Right? That's polluted. The brother's giving me that. Damn, that is nasty. Why you so nasty, cat? We need that thing. You gotta see, that's reality. Right? Hey, when a brother having a hard time, that's what we used to do. When a brother had a hard time because a girl cheated on him, we would use terms that I would not use in front of the sisters. Yeah, you need that tough love. I'm not gonna rub your back. She out there opening up her quiver for every thirsty traveler, right? Let's use that. Let's use the Bible words. She out there thirsty. He's using that to say the same thing with pollution. Read on.
Shall not that land be greatly polluted?
Come on.
But thou hast played the harlot with many lovers.
Meaning all these other nations we followed after all their idolatry, after all their abominable ways. He said with many. They weren't a nation that we didn't see that we said, oh, I want to do that. Oh, I'd like to taste that. I'd like to try that. Oh, that's how they do it here. Oh, in this country, they do threesomes. Oh, in this country, they lay down with animals. Oh, man. I wonder why they do that. Must be good if they do it. Let me try that. That's the way we were rolling. Come on.
Yet return again to me, saith the Lord.
So he's saying, you are perpetuating all this, but then you want to keep coming back to me. You want to keep coming back to me. That's why we needed the sacrifice in Christ to reconcile us to him. Because we went playing the harlot with many lovers in this. So we wound up perpetuating that same pollution amongst our people. And that's the same thing in blindness that we do today. The parallels are there. There's nothing new under the sun, the scripture tells you. So all of us are coming out of that same stuff. And it's getting worse and worse. It's getting to the levels of what it was in these times now. It's getting that much more obscene. Let's get Deuteronomy 28:47, right? Dealing with destroy. Now, hey, this ain't going to be all doom and gloom, right? I'm just lining it up. And I'm going to show you an overview of what's the way that we deal with this. I'm going to give you some tools to equip us on how we deal with this, right? Deuteronomy 28:47. Not yet, though. We still got to get nasty. 28:47.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, for the abundance of all things.
That's the earth and everything in it, right? That was the abundance of all things. He made the earth for our sakes, right? Come on.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, until he have destroyed thee.
Now, I went here in particular because of the aspect where he says, until he have destroyed us. Because a lot of times we think in extremes, and I mean people in general, not just Israel. And you say destroyed, and you would think that means wiped off the face of the earth. But if we're not that clean, holy people that he made us to be, for all intents and purposes, are we not destroyed regardless? You're just a shell, right? They call us zombies. You're a zombie at that point. You're physically here. You're here, you're present in the earth, but you're not doing his will for the abundance of all things. So listen, just do these things, and you're going to have everything. And we didn't want that. We chose pollution. So no, I want to eat doo-doo instead. That's what it's akin to. I don't want this clean glass of water. I want the dirty water because everybody else is doing it, and they laughing and singing when they doing it as well. They look so jovial and happy. We were grievous with it. So he says, until he have destroyed us. And how did they do that? With their pollutions. They did it with their crafty counsels, right? And the heavy thing is it's not toxic to them. It's only toxic to us. It doesn't pollute them. So they can live in this environment. They live and breathe in it. Right? They're not a fish out of water. We are here.
Right.
And so it does not harm them, so they will continue to vomit it out. because it's like nothing to them. That's what they're made for. That's what was made for them, but not for us. You gonna say something? I saw you reaching for the mic.
Yeah.
That part that you read there about until, could you just read that part again? Until he have destroyed thee. The Most High is recording in the Bible that our enemies would, what did it say our enemies would do? I'm sorry, read up about that. Let's just get the context in it so I can get my thoughts together. Read it again, the verse.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon our neck.
Until he have destroyed thee.
Now, when Captain was bringing out the point, he was like, when we look at the word destroyed, it is not necessarily talking about us being destroyed till we are no use to anybody, because that's not the purpose of why an enemy would, quote unquote, destroy you, or that is not the purpose of why somebody would choose to pollute you, or defile you, or corrupt you. They don't want to totally destroy you, because what good is a destroyed slave? What good is it for someone to be defiled to the point where they're no good to nobody? No, the objective is to corrupt them so that it can serve their purpose. That's the purpose of when it said destroy thee. So I thought that was heavy to really harp on. They don't want to destroy you off the face of the earth. They want to destroy you to make you useful to their sin, make you useful into what they're into. But your objective is to recognize that you don't want me dead per se. Like, I'll give you an example. Like what they said about Gad. When they came and then they destroyed Gad over here. What did they say? They said, what they said about the Indian, kill the Indians.
Kill the Indians, save the man.
Save the man. Because what they say, we don't want you resisting what we want out of you. We want to kill what is fortifying you that keeps you in straight with your culture. We want to get rid of that. But we want your body. We want you to use your talents and your mind and everything else for our purpose. That's what they did to Gad with them boarding schools and all of that. So the same thing is what evil around us is trying to do to us. They don't want us dead per se. They want us to be morphed into their program, and we are no longer being what God made us. That's how enemy thinks.
Right, and it serves their purpose. I'm actually going to mention that later because it helps them maintain their. Because in order for there to be a top, there has to be a bottom, right? That's just how the things work. So they don't want to be at the bottom. I mean, they'll have their what I call their casualties of war, right? That they'll sacrifice some of their own, right, to create the illusion, right, that they want to create of things being equal and whatnot. But their ultimate aim is to have us be in subjection to them. It's the Willie Lynch thing, right? Why kill them, right? I'm going to mention that later too. You all the way in the spirit, Bishop, as always. Let's get 1 Maccabees 1 and 7. So we said, how did they destroy us? With these pollutions. 1 Maccabees 1 and 7.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bear rule, every one in his place.
Right, so let's talk about Alexander the Greek, right? History calls him the Great because he combined all the Edomites together. He was the first one to get all the Edomites on one accord in one world power. All right, come on.
And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth.
And it says evils were multiplied in the earth. Meaning the pollutions and the evils in the earth became accelerated. Remember when the Most High, when we read in Leviticus, I didn't harp on it, in 18, he says, therefore that's why I visit iniquity upon the earth, because of their abominations that they continue to vomit out. Meaning this is why the earth is not at rest. This is why it's all jacked up. Because there's so much pollution and sin in the earth. I allow these things that I've created and these spirits to leave disruption in the earth. Right? So it says evils multiplied, meaning that it became more accelerated. Because we read that all those evils were there, all those abominations were there in Leviticus. But when Esau came together this way, right? It says multiplied, meaning it accelerated those things. And more of those things, that's the vomiting coming out, right? Showing it to you. Let's get Matthew 24:21.
The book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time.
Right, so you started to see more, that's multiplying. That's evils multiplying. We're seeing that again now. This is the point that I'm ultimately trying to make. Because I'm making the parallels from then and now with the pollution. This place is not our rest, and it is polluted. And it says, what in Micah 2 and 10? It will destroy you with a sore destruction because of those pollutions. So in order to be able to rise above that, we have to continue to always keep it present that how filthy this place is. Because we can get comfortable with Jordans, with a house, with a nice car, you know, you don't have to be rich to feel like you don't lack for anything. And sometimes that'll put you in a complacent spirit where you're not as eager, you're not as motivated, you're not as driven to put in the work that's needed for us to continue to build this nation. Now is not the time for us to take our foot off the accelerator, but rather push forward more, press towards that mark more, not hit them brakes. Because why? Their evils are multiplying yet again in the earth. So it's not the time for us to ease up on it. It's time for us to press forward more. So go ahead, read on. I'm going to go down to verse 22.
Such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened.
Meaning evils will continue to multiply more and more exponentially. The Most High is going to speed up and allow them to pour out more pollution into the earth. And that's what you're seeing now. That's what it means by those days be shortened. It don't mean, oh man, it felt like, man, it's already the end of the year. Gosh, it's already Friday again. What's going on here? No. He's not talking about 24 hours, 24 hours. A day is a day. Right? It means that more and more of these pollutions are going to come quicker and quicker in succession behind them. Stronger, more effective. Right? What do you call them? Social experiments. We're talking about the mass stuff. You say social experiments. Right? That's to see how much. That's a temperature check. Okay. They went for that? Okay, now we can release the next phase of our plan. Now we can release the next phase and continue to step it up. You going to say something? Let's see, grab the mic.
Do y'all realize that we're in the age of decadence?
That's right.
And after this, that's it. There's no other kingdom coming up except the kingdom of Israel. So that means, and I was watching, actually Deacon IBL, he had sent me a clip from something that he put on his Fix Your Whole Face. Y'all know about that, right? Fix it all. Fix all of the face. But he sent me a clip, and he was talking about, I'm hoping I remember this properly. There was this woman. She was somewhat of a historian on empires. I don't remember what her title was. And she was making a point that she was delving into the kingdoms or different kingdoms that ruled. And she said the different empires. And she said that when they got to their age of decadence, that's when their kingdoms were lost. So just for an example, you can look at Rome, like when Rome in 193 AD and all of that. And there's different kingdoms that like the Bible says, when the transgressions have come to the full. When it comes to the full, that's their time to go. Now look at the filth that's out here now. I was just saying about something, Captain. You know me. I ain't gonna
go right ahead.
You was making a point about how you used to be able to speak and say, you know what, I'm not dealing with that homo stuff. And there was a certain confidence that you were able to say that. I was thinking about should I say this or not. You would say it proudly in the street, yo, we ain't getting down with that, and you can feel you don't even have a remote sense of a backlash. Right now, you can't even say it.
Yeah.
You lose your whole
You lose it
job,
all.
your livelihood.
You can't even say it. You got to use words like the mosquito bite.
Yep.
It's just certain things that you
gotta
just
talk in
can't
code.
say. You got to talk in code about something that is obviously filthy as hell.
Evil's multiplied in the earth. Multiplied.
You got to whisper the Bible.
Yep. Damn.
Think about that. What's that you got on the? Here you are on the job of the Bible. What are you reading? Huh? Nothing.
Hey, you go to ask for a day off to keep a biblical holiday, and like, oh, I got a family thing.
Yeah.
Can't even say
Can't
say that it's to keep a religious thing.
Just letting you know
All
what
types of
day we
scrutiny
in.
come out of that.
He got his mouth gapped open. What are you thinking about? You. Yeah. Huh? You was thinking about what I was saying? Okay. So, you all right? I ain't putting you on the spot, am I?
Yeah, you are. Look at his face. You put him on the spot. He said.
Well, the cameras ain't on you, brother.
He feeling it. He felt the
Sometimes
emotion of what you
listen,
said.
right,
He felt
right.
that in his
And that's
bones.
what I'm looking for. That's the response I'm looking for. I'm not saying it in a negative way or something. I said it that way because it looks like you was catching it like I was catching it. Can you dig it? You all right now?
Nah, he ain't. He look like he got hyperventilate. It's all right, bro. You good. All right, brother. Let me get Psalms 82 and 5. Psalms 82 and 5.
This is the book of Psalms, chapter 82 and verse 5.
Right, now for some of us, we'd be like, oh, but yeah, we know this. This seem all right. But you have to realize the vast majority of our people walk in darkness when it comes to this. They don't understand this still to this day. So we must be able to not only prevent ourselves from getting contaminated, but then find a means in whispers and stuff like that, right? Although not really, right? You know, in certain environments is what we do. We go out, we in the street, we're going to do what we need to do to prophesy the truth, to combat that pollution, right? But then we go out and we have to go ahead and let them notice, because many of our people don't to this day. Come on.
The book of Psalms, chapter 82 and verse 5. They know not.
They know not. The majority of our people do not know, do not understand that this place is defiled, that this place is desperately polluted. Come on.
Neither will they understand.
No, this place is the land of the free and the home of the brave. Everything's on point over here, according to them. This is the best place to live in the whole world. I mean, I have traveled. I'm very grateful that I live in the United States compared to some places I've been. I'm very grateful that the Most High chose my spirit to be here and not in some other country. All right, I'll acknowledge that much. All right, but it's still filthy. When you gotta whisper what's good and right, but you can be on the job and openly you cannot have an opposing view. Well, man, and you get into that water cooler conversation. Hey, what do you think of Caitlyn Jenner? Keeping her rod, or because she still likes women. He said that. He said, I'm gonna change myself up here, but I'm gonna keep that down there because I want to be a woman, but I still like women. He said I want to keep my stuff. We were talking about that a couple weeks ago.
I was just about to say that. The guy walks into the store. What was it? GameStop.
Oh, we talked about that on Friday.
The dude walks in. I'm gonna call him a dude because that's what it was. He walked in there with his big man-looking self with a wig. Looked like he had a wig on.
Looking like Hulk Hogan in his prime.
And the guy kept arguing with the clerk. The clerk is like, but my eyes are telling me what they're telling me. And he's like, the hell with your eyes. Accept me for what I say I am. So the guy got confused and he said, well, okay, the both of y'all then.
He said I was talking to the both of you.
He said, you did it again. You won't acknowledge.
And then he said, sir, I'm so can't help himself. That's the environment that we live in. Hey, I told the story after that. I said I was at the airport. I went to get coffee on one of these trips I took recently. And I go up, and it's clearly a guy, right? It's clearly a guy, right? But he had like a pink face mask, some eyeliner, what? So he didn't have long hair and stuff like that. So I said, I typically, it's like an autopilot thing. If it's a dude, I'll be like, hey, thanks, man. Like, when they help me out, I say, thanks, man, Yeah. And so, I asked him about a certain coffee, whatever, what was in it, whatever. Real nice, though. Gave me good service, hooked it up. And then I said, thanks, man. And I froze.
Lord, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And I said, oh, man, did I just offend this guy? is he gonna mess up my coffee? He gonna mess up my breakfast? Like when I'm not looking, is he gonna give me something extra in there? Right? And I said, oh, and then I started to, and I said, man, why do I even have to worry about that?
That's the point.
Now I gotta change the way I speak and walk around and, right? I mean, and normally I don't care. You're not gonna make me say that, but if, you know, he preparing my food, you know? So I said, now I gotta be gender neutral. Now I gotta be like, well, thank you very much for your service, right? I can't even say that. But I usually say sir or ma'am, right? It's just I come from that generation, right? Where you just respectful. You say sir. Hey, some of you brothers will know. You be a brother. I'll be like, oh yeah, how you doing, sir? Like, it's like a respect thing, you know? And I can't even do that. I said, damn, this is the place that we live in now that I gotta. So you think of that GameStop thing, that poor, man, we read that thing back so many times the other night because you see, like, it's everything in his fiber, in his mind is telling him this is a man. And this dude is threatening to kick his behind if he don't call him ma'am.
Then all of the major news networks interviewed the dude. Put him on TV for everybody to see it. I'm saying we have really went to new lows.
That's pollution. That is pollution. That's evils multiplied. Yeah. That's new lows. That's evils
100%,
multiplied.
100% wrong. Got rod. He got a rod in the whole nine. And he talking about some, I'm a woman. He's sitting up on a television set and they putting cameras on him. But anything about righteousness, you can't hear a bleep.
Nope. Hey, and that goes with this verse that we're bringing out right here. Read Psalms 82 and 5.
They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness.
Come on.
All the foundations of the earth are out of course.
That's what it means when evils are multiplied. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. That you gotta be, everything is showing you that this is a man in front of you. And you can't say man or sir. I mean, you could, but, you know, there's consequences. There's confrontation with it, right? You can say whatever the hell you want to say. But to show that polarization, that was good and right, cannot be spoken openly and boldly, right? And what's wrong is generally accepted as okay and all right. Multiplied. So it says all the foundations of the earth are out of course because of the polluted state that it's in. Let's go to Acts 10 and 11. Yeah, go ahead.
Before we get it, can we go to Psalms chapter 11 and verse 3? Psalms 11 verse 3.
The book of Psalms, chapter 11 and verse 3. If the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do?
So that's a question that the Most High is asking. What can you do for the Most High? You understand? What can you do? You must keep the commandments. You must show that it can be done. For those that, you know what I mean? We have to have the standard. The Bible says you have to hold up the standard. And the standard is the commandments and everything that must be done to be an example for the rest of the people that are suffering on it.
All right, Acts 10 and 11. Acts 10 and 11.
The book of Acts, chapter 10 and verse 11. And saw heaven open, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners, and let down to the earth.
Right, so this is Peter's vision. There's a reason that I'm going here, all right? Because once upon a time, we understood the difference between pollution, right? What was clean and what was unclean, all right? Peter's vision here, this is dealing with Northern Kingdom. It was preparing him to see Cornelius, right? So that he could receive him, right? Because Northern Kingdom was polluted at the time, all right? Without breaking it, you can go on your own. The vessel's going into Northern Kingdom. You read that in Hosea 8 and 8, all right? And he says a great sheet knit at four corners, meaning we were scattered into corners, right? So it's talking about those scattered Israelites, right? And he says, and it was let down to the, because Christianity, well, this is one of their bread and butter to tell you that you can eat lobster and pork and whatever, right? Come on.
Wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air.
That goes with, like, in Revelation 7 and 9, where it said we look like these nations. So he saw all manner of beasts, because why? We look like all nations and stuff. This vision is a similitude for Peter. Come on.
And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill, and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord. For I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean.
So he knew what was clean or unclean, right? Come on.
And the voice spake unto him again the second time, what God hath cleansed, that call not thou common.
So meaning God cleansed Israel, right? By the commandments. That's who he cleansed from the pollutions of the earth. You read later on, it clearly says that he would, because even when you go into Acts 11, they were like, yo, why you went unto Cornelius? And what did he do? He explained to them the vision. And they understood that it meant the northern kingdom. It did not mean pork and pork chops and lobster rolls and all that other stuff with clams and oysters. It wasn't going into all that stuff, all right? But my point is they understood, and Peter understood after he woke up, that it was talking about people being unclean, being polluted, defiled, debased. That there were people in Israel that were unclean and that God opened up the doorway for them to be cleansed, right? Like Bishop was going in when he said, we're not fully destroyed. We have an opening. We have a doorway to salvation in that, right? So let me get now, I want to try to speed this up a little bit. First Maccabees 1 and 11.
Did you go back to, did you finish up in Acts? You did that part in Acts? There's a part that you get.
I just wanted down to verse 15, but go ahead. You could bring it out.
All right.
It's the other point you want.
Yeah, verse 14. Read 14 again.
Acts chapter 10, verse 14. But Peter said, not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean.
So the argument that the Christians will be running around was talking about some, no, you supposed to eat pork. You supposed to eat lobster and all that madness. Because that's how the Christians take it. But that's not how it panned out when you would read down. Now jump to verse 28.
Verse 28. And he said unto them,
This is what it meant when it said that in 14 where it said, I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. People are thinking that he's talking about food. And it's going to explain in verse 28 what it was really talking about. Read.
And he said unto them, ye know how that it is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company.
Because there was a division between the two kingdoms. Go ahead.
Or come unto one of another nation. But God hath showed me that I should not call any man.
Any what?
Any man.
So it ain't got nothing to do with lobster, crabs. It's talking about northern kingdom. That's what he's saying. Mm-hmm. Read it again. Read that statement again. But God has what?
But God hath showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean.
That's what he was talking about in verse 14.
Right.
These wicked Christians with their defiled program to try to defile our people into stupidity when there's a dietary law in the Bible.
Right. And when it tells you, if it weren't talking about food, what's cleansed? What God already said was clean. He didn't automatically take things that he already told you was unclean and said now they're clean.
Right.
He already laid that out when you read that in Leviticus. He already told you what that is.
He's explaining it.
He explained it. This is what's clean. This is what's lawful. But here in particular, it's talking about people. It's talking about Israel. And when he says other nations, you don't mean all nations. Because then if you do persuade a Christian to that, then they'll be like, oh, but that means all people can be saved.
Right. Oh, no.
right. But it's not talking about that. Right? My point that I went there was that acknowledgement that you have to realize, going with the foundations out of course, the pollutions that are there, that there's still many of our people that are unclean. Right? It was and what made them unclean? They were in a Gentile state of mind, right? Again, emphasizing the things that are unclean. Like I said, I'm going to give you plain names of some of the things that are their main pollutants for our people and that continue to keep us in that destroyed state where they can continue to have us as the tail and them as the head, all right? But let's get 1 Maccabees 1 and 11.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1 and verse 11. In those days when there out of Israel wicked men.
So remember, above this we have read that evils were multiplied in the earth. That's when evil started to multiply. And it says, and then in those days, instead of our people acknowledging that evils were multiplied, right? Well, the bulk of them anyway, a remnant did, right? They did something else contrary-wise. Come on.
Who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen.
So going into that perpetuating the pollution. Like we read in Jeremiah 3 earlier, and it says, so you have taught the land thy whoredoms, right? It says, so what they did instead when evils multiplied is there were many that persuaded those who were trying to do right and said, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen, come on,
that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
We want that stuff. They living it up. They eating doodle and it looks like they call that a delicacy. Right? You know how they eat some unclean, nasty stuff and it's a delicacy? Right? Right. What'd you say? Chitlins, right? Escargot, right? Frog legs and the like and stuff like that. They'll eat that stuff and they'll tell you that's a delicacy. So let's go to Isaiah 28 and 14. Isaiah 28:14.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 28 and verse 14. Wherefore, hear the word of the Lord, ye scornful men, that rule this people which is in Jerusalem. Because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death.
So that covenant that you read in Maccabees is really a covenant with death. When you make a covenant with the pollutants of this world, what you made is a covenant with death. Going back to, remember, Micah 2 and 10 was the point, and that's what I opened it with. And it says, this is not your rest, arise and depart, because it will destroy you with a sword destruction. So we are not to make a covenant with death. So now we're starting to get a little insight into how we avoid polluting ourselves. And it says, our forefathers, they wound up making a covenant with death. You have some of our people who are on that stuff now. They've made a covenant with death. Why? Because they went to the heathen round about them that were spewing out abominations, and they made a covenant with them. They said, we want to be like you, because if we're that way, this present world, riches and stuff is open up to us. I can maneuver a certain way. I can operate in this space. Come on.
And with hell are we at agreement.
And he says, with hell. You're at agreement with hellish conditions by hellish, filthy people. Come on.
When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us. For we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves.
And I'm going to show you what some of those falsehoods are in a moment. Just bear with me. So it says, we made lies and falsehoods our refuge. That's that clean stuff that you can say openly and be all right. Clearly there's a sir, and you can't say sir, you got to say man, right? And we've made that our refuge. Come on.
Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste.
So after all that is said, it's telling us that Christ is our decontamination. He says, look, this place is filthy. People who go with this, you're making a covenant with death. You're at agreement with hell if you roll this way. He says, but if you make your foundation Christ, he says, then you're going to have a sure salvation. And it says, don't make haste to do that, because that's what's going to keep you. This is all going into that first part of Micah 2 where it says, arise and depart. So how do we start opening those doorways to that? You say, that Christ is that salvation, right? Let's get Isaiah 29 and 16. But you have to identify the problem before we can begin to address it. Isaiah 29, 16.
Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 16.
So in Psalms 82 and 5, we read the foundations were out of course. Now it says it's something different here. Come on.
Surely your turning of things upside down.
So it says the things have been turned upside down. Listen, and if you think about that, what's heavy about that is it's telling you that what your eyes see and your ears hear, if it's not out of this Bible, it's not true. It's a lie. It's a construct. It's a design. Right? Just like that movie, The Matrix, it says it's code to keep you asleep. So, and in The Matrix, that's a perfect parallel, because they didn't kill him. They just put them to sleep so that they can power their society, so that they be able to live, so that they be able to run things and keep us in subjection. It's letting you know that you cannot trust your physical eyes. You cannot trust your senses if it's not through the Bible. Everything. When something is polluted, that means all of it is toxic. It's filthy. It says it's the turning of things upside down. Come on.
Shall be esteemed as the potter's clay.
But God says, don't worry. It says it's going to be esteemed as the potter's clay. Clay is malleable. It's moldable. You can make it whatever you want. Right? The creator of it will make his vision be made with it. He says, listen, they think that they're running things. They think that this place is going to stay contaminated forever. But it's not. Come on.
For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not?
So it says, listen, if I'm the creator of this and I'm making this clay, Can I tell him, no, that's not my I'm a vase, right? I said, this is a vase. No, I'm not a vase. What do you mean you're not a vase? He says, you don't question the creator of those things. Now, but God made even the heathen as well, not just us. So he's saying their pomp lets them believe that they can change this thing. But you must understand that this thing is easily going to be changed. The pollution is only before a season. It's only before time. Come on.
Or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he had no understanding?
Meaning the creation cannot question the creator in what he made it for, its purpose. Because it will only function for that one purpose. What's dirty will not become clean. You read that, I think, in Ecclesiastes. Tells you that. It says, I'm paraphrasing it, but it says, what is crooked you cannot make straight. That's what it says. And God made them to be crooked. Or in other words, defiled, the base, polluted. But not us. Repentance is open to us. So even though we may walk in crooked ways, even though we may walk in crooked pathways, if we can acknowledge those pathways, then you can know I need to get off this road and go to this one. I need to go from this upside down to the other way. Let me get Judith 5 and 20. Right, so we have read in Deuteronomy 28:48, going into that destruction. It says, destroyed how? Destroyed how? Not in that extreme, not in that totality where we were dead. They wanted rulership and to maintain it. And I tell you, a lot of times we jump to this verse. For the sake of time, I'm jumping to this verse. I'm not going to go up. But you should read from the top. And it floors me every time because I go, damn, they knew the whole history. Better than some of us probably at that time. They knew that whole history. Good.
The book of Judith, chapter 5 and verse 20. Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error in this people.
Sin. Error is sin. If there be any error, meaning if they're following the ways of this world, if there's any pollution in them, come on.
And they sin against their God, let us consider that this shall be their rule.
Hey, and they understood that that's their God. We got our own gods. He said if they sin against their God, not the God, not the one true God, they sin against their God. Come on.
Let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome
They
them.
knew that if they polluted us. See, a lot of times we read over that part where it says evils will multiply, and we're doing that in absence of them understanding. When everything that they've ever done in history goes back to that blessing. And to try to get the rule, and to try to get the blessing back that his forefather Esau callously gave away. So when it's their whole drive and motivation and every play they make is to keep us down and to keep them up top. But they said, how do we do this? We can't keep killing them. That's a lot of death and destruction. We can't just keep doing, not that they care about death, but they got a murderous spirit. They said, but then who's going to be our garbage collectors? Who's going to be the ones that we can make money off of and do these menial things that we have no desire to do? How do we monetize these people? But also keep them and deal wisely with them, like Pharaoh said in Egypt, right? They are mightier and greater than us. They know that deep down in their bones. As much as they may put themselves out there, front and center, in all manner of media and things, they a powerful superhero that cannot be destroyed. That's us. Yeah, we're gonna put a Edomite man to do that. A savior that's black with woolly hair. Now that's us too. What's it say? The Last Samurai. The Last Samurai right. Cutting heads. That's us too. Right? They just put themselves out there. They said we have to find a way to keep these people down without continuing to fight them. That's that ultimate destruction. And when you think about that in Deuteronomy 28:48, the reason why we go to them in want of all things is because we are destroyed. Right? We weren't destroyed first and then went to them in want of all. The other way around I'm talking about. So that was the destruction that got us there. That's what allowed us to go to them in want of all things. Because they took away all our history, all our understanding in this. Remember, we walk on in darkness, the foundations are out of course. And by those methods, they've destroyed us. So now we have to go to them for all these things. Because we are no nation. We are no people. So they think. But this is why all those things in the background with the administrations and the government, that's what vexes them more than any physicality that we could ever do for them. Come on, read on.
But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their God be for them, and we become a reproach before all the world.
Right, because they understood what the end was. They said, we can't let these people get right. So they said, let's stop fighting them physically and let's maintain dominion over them by polluting them. This is the easiest, it's the path of least resistance. This is simple for us to do, right? Going back to those delicacies and that pollution, so on and so forth. Let me get 2 Corinthians 10 and 4.
This is the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 10 and verse 4. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God, to the pulling down of strongholds.
The part I want on this is strongholds. What strongholds? Where did those strongholds come from? Who built those strongholds up? Who placed them there? What are some of those strongholds? That's how we go to that scripture. We just say, yes, our warfare is mighty. And it's true. We should be that way. But wait a second. Where did these strongholds come? How did those, if we were watchful, how did they even set up strongholds? The hell is going on here? So one of the ways that they began to maintain dominion, and they said, we're going to multiply those evils and set up strongholds in them because they understood in our history. That means they read Leviticus. That means they read Jeremiah. That means they read this Bible from cover to cover and said, oh, this is our strategy. You know, like when Bill Belichick stole plays? Right? All you football heads know that, right? And he was stealing plays to help the team win. They said, oh, we're going to get the playbook. And we're going to get our scholars on it. And we're going to understand this thing. Man, why are we... This is a waste of resources. Let's not destroy him this way. We're going to destroy him that way. And that revelation was vocalized for the first time here in Judah. But they knew about it before that. They had their historians that kept that history. So they set up strongholds in our mind. Let me get the definition of stronghold. So what are these strongholds? It is a place where a particular cause or belief is strongly defended or upheld. And that's why you'll see our people when you tell them, no, this Jesus isn't the right Jesus. That's an imposter. This is the right Jesus. They'll fight you. They'll hold that because they will defend that belief strongly and uphold it. That's what makes it a stronghold. Because listen, they can tell you whatever they want about whatever religion and whatever filth they want to sling at you. But it's only if you ingest it, if only you embrace it and let that thing settle in your mind, that you then will defend it. See, because what makes it, the difference between just it being filthy and it becoming a stronghold in your mind is that you will defend that belief. You will defend it without proof. You will defend it as if your life depended on it.
You got
the proof in the Bible to show them that their image of what they call Jesus in their mind is totally wrong. And they're defending that thing. And you got the source from where Jesus is. That's a major witchcraft. Right? You literally have the source. You got it. You opening up and showing it to them. And they're saying no.
Yep. So you must understand what that stronghold is. Right? It's so bad that, let's get this in Ecclesiastes 10 and 5. That Solomon saw this thing and he said, oh my goodness, what is this that I'm seeing? This don't make no damn sense. It's so bad. You want to know what the stronghold is so bad that we believe that we Gentiles. Not us in here. Nobody in here should be believing they are Gentile. But once upon a time, many of us did.
And God said we were holy.
And God said we were holy. God said we were above all nations. Bishop brought that out in Deuteronomy 7. He said, you above all of them. And not because you were great, but because I chose you. Because I chose you and I gave you a law that was for you. I gave you ways to live. I gave you wisdom and understanding in the sight of the nations. Right? And you would not. You chose something else instead. You chose filth over the clean glass of water. Let's get that. Ecclesiastes 10 and 5.
Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 5. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun.
So Solomon said, damn, this thing is evil what I'm seeing. These strongholds that I see. Because how could this be? Understanding what a great nation these people are. We are. Come on.
as an error which proceeded from the ruler.
He said, this is an error. It looks like there's something wrong. Come on.
Folly is set in great dignity.
He said, I see folly. I see things that were made to be base things set in dignity. Come on.
And the rich sit in low place.
He said, wait a second, and I see rich people sitting in low places. That automatically should put in your head, that don't make sense. Rich people don't sit in. So he's not talking about physical riches. He said, I see rich people sitting in low places. Come on.
I have seen servants upon horses.
He said, I've seen servants upon. This is the end result of that pollution. That what was meant to be the other way, this is the foundations out of course. This is turning things. Because when you turn something upside down, right, the bottom becomes the top becomes the bottom. That's what Solomon is explaining here. He said, I've seen servants upon horses. But now we're those servants to them. Because they've destroyed us to maintain us in a state of servitude, to uphold their society, to uphold their rulership, to uphold their wealth, and to defend them to the death and their doctrines and ideologies. Come on.
And princes walking as servants upon the earth.
And that's talking about Israel, because Israel means prince with the power. It says, I see princes walking as servants. And Solomon said, damn. So this is that end result of that pollution. This is that end result of those strongholds. You going to say something, Bishop?
I just want to give him a precept. I ain't got to read it.
Go ahead.
When you read Ecclesiastes 10 and 7, what the captain just went over, and it said that folly is set in great dignity. And no, servants, what did it say?
Servants upon horses.
Servants upon horses, and no, I need to hear it.
Yeah, read it again.
I need to get my thought together.
Verse 6.
How I go? Yeah.
Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place.
Scripture. And the rich sit in low place. The precept to that is Revelation 2:9. Because the rich that sit in low place are the Israelites. That's the reason why. But it said, but what did the Most High say? He said that they are rich.
Yep.
But they sit in a low place like they're nothing. And that's what Revelation 2:9 said. Get that real quick. Just real quick.
The book of Revelations, chapter 2 and verse 9. I know thy works and tribulation and poverty.
The Israelites. Go ahead.
But thou art rich.
But thou art rich, but you're sitting in low place. There it is right there. All right. Go back to your
right. So that's the end result of all this stuff. All this pollution culminates in that. Culminated in that. Because we were made to be rulers in the earth. We were made to be gods in the earth. And the culmination of all this thorough deceptive strategy resulted in that vision that Solomon saw. He was looking at the year 2021 when he saw that thing.
Hey, folly set in great dignity is these people calling themselves Jews when they're not.
That's right.
That's Revelation 2:9 again, because I didn't finish it. So the finishing of that verse still goes back to Ecclesiastes 10:7.
So that's the end result of where we at. So now, let's try to start to give some light to this thing, right? So it's not all gloom and doom. Let's get Zephaniah 2 and 1, all right? Zephaniah 2 and 1. There's another one, right? Everybody goes to here, but we have to stop thinking in a polluted mind state. Because even some of us in here, even myself sometimes, can be clouded with the pollutions in here. And it takes concentrated effort to make sure that the thoughts and the actions and the systems and everything we put up is not dealt with carnally, right? It's like the conversations Bishop Nathaniel have with us sometimes. You have some brothers who have a skill set in the world, right? And it's a very good skill set, right? Let's say it's a corporate brother, right? He's very corporate. And that can be, if it's brought into subjection to the spiritual infrastructure, like Cap said yesterday, right? Can be used for great things in Israel. But then, in subtle ways, because of the pollution that's around us, they'll try to make this whole thing like a corporate Inc. 500 company and forget the spiritual aspects of what we're doing. So we have to be able to take those abilities that we're able to use in the world, but put it in the frame of a spiritual infrastructure in order to make it work. It's not that the brother's intentionally being malicious, but that's how subtle the pollution can be. And that's the levels of circumspection that you must have as you walk in this. Because you're so confident in the skill set that you've acquired in the world that you won't filter the pollution out of that thing so that you can use it successfully and usefully for here. And not realize, let me make those adjustments. What he said?
I said, you talking about me?
Oh, am I? If it fit. You funny, Zach. He said he talking about me. Zephaniah 2:1. Come on.
Zephaniah chapter 2 and verse 1. Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired.
Right, and you probably haven't caught it yet, but there's been elements of what you went over there that I've used here. You brought out some scriptures over there. I've just taken them in slightly different direction based on what I wanted to do here. This was one of them you brought out over there. And he says, we gonna get this. And we say, yeah. But have we ever stopped and asked ourselves, gather together in what? Oh, let's gather together, but in what? Gather together in Islam? Gather together in Christianity? Gather together in multiple wives? Gather together in all types of heresies and doctrines? And the only thing that unifies us is what? Well, we all want better for our people. We can all rally behind at least that much. So let's try to come together with all these mixed doctrines, mixed views, mixed divisions, and think we're going to get somewhere. There was a directive behind this when the Most High said gather together. What? Gather together in the enemy's strongholds? No! We must identify those strongholds so we know what not to gather together in. So Bishop had brought this out, and he said, the enemy likes to keep us comfortably numb. That struck a chord with me when you said that.
Wow.
They like to keep us comfortably numb.
Yep.
Meaning oblivious to the pollutions that are there, but let it feel like a warm blanket. That's why I said, make doo-doo look good. Make oysters, right? I mean, well, some of us used to eat. I never ate no oyster. I thought oysters were nasty.
Yeah,
slimy. It looked like a booger. Like you just, like when you blow your nose when you're sick? Probably what it feel like when it go down too, right? Never had no oysters. Escargot, right? Others, and that's a delicacy. I'm gonna eat some of that. They make the thing look good. So now you comfortably numbing that. Love is love. They do that with the Sodom agenda, right? Yeah, well, some of these dudes that's transitioning kind of do look good. And some brothers will be there. Hey, some of y'all, they've done it, man. Hey, you seen them videos they putting out on TikTok now? They bring a chick up to the dude, he start making out with her, and then they'll be like, what's your name? It's Juan. He's like, no! Comfortably no. Can't tell, right? Dave, what was the other thing? Bishop was showing up the clip from that movie where she was a transvestite. So what? Stealth sex. They call it stealth sex. So they'll never turn the lights on, right? They'll always position it for you where it goes, right? They never let you, like they'll do the positions and stuff like that. Meanwhile, you was not in the right hole. It's a thing. Look it up. It's a thing. That's the filth that's in the earth. It's a thing. Sound funny, it's a thing. It's called stealth sex. And the whole transgender community is into that stuff. That's the filth that they'll do.
I thought you said you're going to change it and bring it us.
I'm sorry. It's so polluted. The womb is so polluted. I can't. It's so polluted. Let me get my mind right. Read Zephaniah 2:1.
Gather yourselves together. Yea, gather together, O nation not desired.
Right, so we must gather together, not in those strongholds, but in this program that the Most High laid out for us. So what are some of those strongholds that Israel holds to? Number one is Christianity, all right? And Christianity, you have to understand, because I think sometimes we say it so much that we don't realize how dangerous it is. I would gather to say it is probably the most lethal pollutant that they have put out into our people. Because Christianity, just like we read in Colossians, the rudiments, the second definition, where it says it's the part of something but not the whole, they'll take it from our actual book and feed it to you in a manner that's something else, right? So that's like if somebody take a cheeseburger and they tell you it's a hot dog and you never know no better. And everybody else calling it but you get what I'm saying with that analogy? You look at it, right? You know it's a cheeseburger, but they say, no, that's a hot dog. But you won't know that unless you're educated on what it really is, right? You gonna say something?
Yeah, real quick on that point that you're making about how the enemy would, how he would subvert us. Because you mentioned Christianity.
Yes.
Christianity is the tool that they use. And,
yes.
When we was reading earlier with King Halophanes, in the third verse, we ain't got to get it. Halophanes was asking the question, and they said, who is that people up there on the hill that has to come and serve me? And he was given the whole history of Israel. But the questions that he asked is what was important. He says, what is the strength of their army? He was asking specific questions about Israel. Basically, what I'm saying is that's what our enemies have done to us by giving us Christianity.
Yes.
They knew that the Bible was our book. They said, well, the best way to get with them is to go through their book.
That's exactly the point of why I went there, because it led to these strongholds. They perfected their tactics. Because remember, you read in our captivities, they kept taking us, conquering us, and taking us into from one captivity to the next to the next. That takes resources, that takes immense manpower, and then, you start living in a world where there is a faction that frowns upon captivity and things like that, but they weren't never going to give that up. So they had to figure out a way to perpetuate that thing. And they said, Christianity is the gateway drug. That's the thing that opens up some of the other ones that I'm going to read. And lets you think that it's okay. Christianity was fully designed to pollute and destroy our people.
100%.
Fully designed, and they start with our figurehead, right? They say, we're going to take their Messiah, their Savior, and we're going to make them look like us. And we're going to feminize that Savior. And we're going to change the message of what that Savior was really there for. And by doing that, it takes us away from those things. Christianity is built upon every distortion. You remember we read all the foundations out of course, things are upside down? Christianity is the bizarro Superman to what the Bible really is. They said it's going to look right. It's going to smell right. It's going to be comfortable for them. They're going to be able to slide right into this thing. They're not going to reject it. And then to go ahead and start feeding that to us. It's designed for you not to keep the commandments. It's designed for you not to have identity. It's designed to include all people. It's designed to do all types of acceptance and to fund Christianity by your tithes. So now they're making money off of you, and you happy about it. You willingly go. That's like, in boarding schools, they would hit you, thank you, sir, may I have another? They poisoning us, and we willingly go through. So Christianity is a stronghold. It's the number one stronghold in our people's mind. Right? And then let me get Daniel 7:25. Christianity was designed to wear our people out. When you read about wearing us out, Christianity was designed to wear our people out. And that's why I say it was the gateway drug. Because they wore us out in Christianity, and it opened us up and weakened our defenses, our biblical defenses, our spiritual defenses, to receive everything else that's on this list much more easily. Daniel 7:25.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
Speaking great words against the Most High is Christianity. It's everything opposite of what the Most High ordained and said for us. And he said, and he shall wear out the saints of the Most High. That until we have been destroyed. A sword destruction. And it started in slavery. That's the number one method of them wearing us out. But what happened in slavery? We couldn't read. That's how they were able to take this book, right? Because all through history, we kept some semblance of it. You read it when you read them Northern Kingdom books. And they talk about, you have the one that Las Aztecas, the Aztecs. And it says that they came in, they spoke to the Mexicans. And they said, hey, how did you get here? And they said they have a story that talks about how a great Messiah took them out of this land where there was 10 plagues that was given to destroy the people that were there so that they can get their freedom. They say that they recount the history in Ezra's, but like I said, there's always been some semblance of it. So they said, listen, we can't totally get this out of here. So when they started to put us in captivity, they taught us strange languages, strange tongues, pulling us further and further away from our real identity and conditioning us and polluting us to their identity. And then this is why they forced Christianity on us under pain of death. You see the picture. I remember I went to, we were on a cruise one time, went to Belize. And they took us on this little tour. And in the caves, there was murals of how they came, and they forced them with swords to bow down to the cross. And then what happens in the process? It don't take a lot of time. It only take, you give it 100 years of that type of control and censorship, and the elders die away, and the next generation, and then you can't read. So even if there were some scrolls or something written, and now you start to lose yourself and who you really are, what you are, and you embrace something else. Because, right, you can't just have a void, right? Something got to fill it in. So we filled it in with pollutants. Christianity being the chief one. Read this again, Daniel 7:25.
The book of Daniel, chapter 7 and verse 25. And he shall speak great words against the Most High.
Come on.
And shall wear out the saints of the Most High.
Read.
And think to change times and laws.
Right, and we know, right, we've gone through this basic understanding. We talk about how he tried to change, he added months to the calendar, he changed Christ's birth, all this other stuff. But you know what other times that they're trying to change? Their times. Because their time has an end. And they know that they have to change the laws of the Most High, speak great things against them in order to try to change those times. Because they believe in their pomp, and that's by the hand of the Most High, just like he hardened Pharaoh's heart. Even though they've read this, remember, they know this history. They know what their end is. They know that at some point they're going to lose, but they try to change their time. They're trying to extend their time of rulership in the earth. Because they know that all they have is a dispensation of time. Their kingdom is only but for a set time. Our kingdom comes after this. Well, we do got next. We got next, and that's when that kingdom is going to be set up in the days of those kings, like the scripture says, that'll never come down. So they try to change those times. Christianity is that entryway, and that's what helped them do these next things. The education system, or rather the indoctrination system. I had sent you some screenshots on socialization. Did y'all pull that up?
Yes, sir.
I gotta go up. We can get it in. We can get it in. I'm accelerating this. I don't want to cut this. I got to finish and make these points.
Get it in.
Rather, indoctrination system, right? The education system is a way of socialization. No, I had one on Wiki. I'll read it. It says, in sociology, socialization is the process of internalizing the norms and ideologies of society. In other words, strongholds. Because when you internalize them, that means it's in you. It's not just a piece of knowledge that you have. It means you're acting it out. You're living that way. So it says they internalizes the norms and ideologies of society, the pollutions that we read about. The education system socializes us, save the Indian, kill the man, so that we can take their norms and their ideologies and roll that way. Socialization encompasses both learning and teaching. So not only must they have you learn it, they make you a reproductive thing, like a virus. And now you spread it. So remember how we read in Jeremiah 3 where it says we spread whoredoms in the land by our actions? So first we got poisoned by them. Then we went and we spread that pollution because they socialized us to those norms, right? So it says the means by which social and cultural continuity are attained. Continuity. The changing of their times. They want it to continue forever, that we stay in this state that we're in. This is why I said the Most High going to have to shorten them days. He's going to have to continue to show us prophecy so that more and more of our people will see the times that we're in and try to fight this pollution. It says socialization is strongly connected to developmental psychology. That's why, remember I said every word is deliberate in the Bible at the outset? I know it's been a long time since that stuff came out. The Most High said strongholds in 2 Corinthians. And strongholds is beliefs that it says you will defend strongly. Because they've embedded it into our being. Humans need social experiences to learn their culture and to survive. So they said, we can't just keep isolating them in slavery. It said we have to socialize them in the greater society. Else we always got to watch our back. We always got to worry about them rising up against us and maybe overtaking us. That's trick, baby. For all intents and purposes, though an individual may look like us, though they may sit in a high office in government and look like us, they have the mind of their oppressor. They are polluted. So what good are they to us, really? It's like them. It says socialization essentially represents the whole process of learning throughout the life course and is essential influence on the behavior, beliefs, and actions of adults as well as of the children. So they didn't just randomly say, let's create a school system and give them education. They said, they're going to make it, we're going to build this thing as a good thing. And listen, brothers and sisters, you got to play in their sandbox to do something, right? So we're not saying don't go to school and don't do those things, but we got to be circumspect when we send our kids to school. when we go to school and we start to pick up these things.
That's right.
Right? Try to take out the pollutants in what's there and keep what's useful and good, bring into spiritual subjection, right, of the spiritual infrastructure, and get rid of the pollutant part of it. And it can be done because the Most High has given us the tools with that. Because now we can see the dirty from the clean. Before we could not. Before we learned this Bible, we could not tell what was clean or dirty. That was left up to your own devices to determine what was right or wrong. Going with the status quo of what many people may have thought. Well, it must be right if most people are rolling that way. So it says socialization, it gets the kids, it works on your behavior, it works on your beliefs and actions. Socialization may lead to desirable outcomes. It's programming. And it says it's a constant teaching thing. And they do it not just in school systems. We're going to read more examples, like music and entertainment, media, even news. They constantly socializing us. We thinking we consuming information for ourselves so that we can form our own opinions. And all this time, it's like they have a hand up our butt, like a puppet. And we just sounding off everything they've programmed us to say, do, and be.
I heard an Edomite
a long time ago, way back in the days, where you had this woman, this Edomite woman that stood up, and she was basically trying to tell. There was Klansmen actually that was on the podium, and they was speaking. You know how they speak about it, nigger, you know, all that business. So this Edomite woman stood up like she was defending Jacob. And she was basically saying, you don't have the right to tell them this and that, you know, speaking against them. And the head of the clan, his name was Tom Metzger. I shouldn't be saying that. I'd be in more trouble. But anyway, he said, listen, woman, sit down. You have no opinion. Your opinion is TV. He said, if your TV breaks down, you have no opinion.
And so do you know how you bring that up to today? If the internet goes down, you have no opinion. If you got no Facebook, if you got no Instagram, if you don't got any of this stuff,
you have no opinion.
I went over, and let me tell you something. I did a segment on it on the Saturday show. I haven't done it fully on the Wednesday show. I have my sociology book, and there's a whole section on agents of socialization, is what they call it. And social media and the internet is one of them now. It's a new one. And they've done studies to see, because it hasn't been around that long. At least not so available to the mainstream, and they're studying how that affects behavior and stuff like that. That's how Facebook's able to make money. What do you think? Facebook decided to spend millions upon millions of dollars in infrastructure and electricity and employees just to have a place for you to hang out online and share your pictures and BS?
Right. Programming.
Subliminal messages, those programming in it socializes you to norms. And then what happens is the government and the powers that be come in and they say, well, how can we use these things like Google and this and that? Hey, I talk about this. There's a movie called Ex Machina. And the creator, that thing messed up my head for like 3 or 4 days when I watched it. I'm not going to go too far into it, but there's one part in the beginning where the main guy that he created this artificial intelligence robot, he's supposed to be like the guy that was the founder of Google in the movie, but they call it something else. And this reporter's writing a report on him, and he says, oh, so this is why you made this thing, all this data that you gathered. He says, so basically, Google teaches you, what people want. He said, no. He said, it didn't teach us what people want. He said, we made this thing first as a tool, right, to help people. He goes, and then we realized that the data we were collecting was showing us how people think. He says, and we've taken that data, and I've created this artificial intelligence. And there's some scientific test, I can't remember what it's called. It's like a scientific standard that you measure the capacity of artificial intelligence. And basically, if you can start to, as a person, elicit a personal or emotional responses towards the artificial intelligence, basically, if the artificial intelligence can make you endear yourself to it, then it's past that marker of how good that thing is. And the whole thing is that there's this robot that basically, he falls in love with the robot, right? Man, I don't want to mess up the end for you because it's jacked up. But it's not violent or anything. I mean, there's some violence, but it's not. But it's just really, I think of that and I say, the social media and the internet going into this socialization, it taught them how we thought. And with that information, now they can then cater their pollutants to whatever is going to get us to meet their objective. They can steer the people and society and the world in the direction that they want them to. That's the depths of this man. That's why it says speaking great things against the Most High. That they can move people away from the directives that God gave them. Go ahead, Bishop.
I just want
to give one clear example that many of y'all have seen and perhaps didn't even think about it. Masking up, right? Everybody put their mask on when they get inside different areas and all of that. And the whole objective is to make sure that other people don't cough the germs that become airborne and it ends up in your lungs and all. So that's the purpose of that thing. Everybody's with me so far? Yes, sir. But the socialization has happened so deeply to the point that you notice that the occupants will be driving in their own vehicles. Nobody else in the car with them.
And they're wearing a mask. Idiots.
And the car has a filtration system in the car itself, a cabin filter. That's better than anything you can put on your face. And they're riding around with the thing on.
That's like wearing a seatbelt while you're walking around. You just take the thing out and click it in and just...
And it doesn't even And it doesn't even register that they've been programmed.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Social experiment, 100%.
So, yeah, that's what it does. So socialization may lead to desirable outcomes, sometimes labeled morale. So you've heard those terms, morale? We got to give them morale. We got to keep them, their morale up. Socialization meets that goal. As regards the society where it occurs, individual views are influenced by the society's consensus. You think you're an individual? You're a thought-provoking thinker that's formed your own opinions?
No.
Like Tom Mesker said,
right.
Your opinion is the television. Your opinion is the internet and Facebook
exactly.
and Instagram and what the rest of people, what the consensus says. And usually tend toward what the society finds acceptable or normal. So that's why the strongholds, there was another definition that wasn't up there. It says a controversial opinion. So we don't just need to cast these strongholds down. We need to build up the right strongholds in our people so that we can stand up against the evildoers, like the scripture says. Socialization provides only a partial explanation for human beliefs and behaviors, maintaining that agents are not blank slates predetermined by their environment, meaning they know that we have some information in there, so we can't try to program them as if it's a blank canvas. We need to manipulate the thoughts that are already in them to steer them towards what we want. It says scientific research provides evidence that people are shaped by both social influences and genes. Genetic studies have shown that a person's environment interacts with their genotype to influence behavioral outcomes. This is why they push us into ghettos. This is why they'll drop crack or heroin or whatever in our neighborhoods. They've programmed us. I'm going to put it like this. I don't want to keep going on this because I want to get back to this and finish this. You know how they selectively have bred dogs to make the species that they want? And I don't mean mutts. Most dogs that you have today were mixes of other breeds until they got what they wanted through generations. The behavior is not just here. Their influence is so strong. That's why it says it's witchcraft. It says if it were possible, they would deceive the very elect. The bewitching of naughtiness, the Bible calls it. Studies show now that it's not just that we pass it on by teaching our kids that. They've programmed it into our genes, certain behaviors. Certain behaviors. And I'll tell you, the only thing that can change that is the power of these scriptures and the Most High. You're not going to do it with any other doctrine or nothing else. There's a little link. I'm not going to go to it. I think I had sent it to you, but I'm trying to speed through this. But you can look it up on your own. What's it called? Click on that link, environmental interact, and it'll say the name of it. If you guys want to research it, it's called the gene-environment correlation, and they have 3 criteria for it: passive, active, and something else. And this is the heathen that have come up with this. It's Esau that came up with this. You know, the projects, who knows what projects are? I mean, that's an East Coast thing. You know what projects are? Right? Supposedly the projects were supposed to be where they were going to put low-income families to provide them affordable housing. The projects became a cesspool of gang violence and drugs and abuse, everything contrary to the Bible. And you know who was in the projects? Our people. And they watched that thing. They observed that thing and took notes as if we were behind a glass case to learn how to continue to condition us and drop these things in on our people. That's the depths of where he went. Christianity was the gateway to that, and which is also a form of socialization. Then they went to the education system, like I said, which is rather the indoctrination system. Music and entertainment. So they said, damn, these Negroes like to dance and party. All right, let's put messages in that for them. And we went from singing Negro spirituals and our own songs and from what semblance of culture we had left, and we started talking about hoes, and so you went to the filth of what'd you call him? That Judah brother that's on dancing on Satan's lap.
Yeah. I don't know that.
I'm sorry. Especially, how it be in the captain's group too. Southern Kingdom, as soon as they see Northern Kingdom do say, what's going on, Northern Kingdom? And we can't say, you know how y'all say, well, that's an African American. We say, nah, that's a Mexican or Puerto Rican. They're like, nah, silly dub, own this. So I try to spread that thing around. The original algorithm, right, of the white man, right? They'll send messages in that. Hey, and I said it before. He got the other one where it's a bunch of naked dudes dancing in the prison house. Bro, and the bass line for that thing is hard, bro. That thing pop on shuffle, like on Spotify when I'm in the gym. And I start, what am I listening to? Straight up, I changed that thing real quick. Or what's the other one? What's the nasty one with the two hoes? Nicki Minaj and the other? Oh my gosh. Some of y'all heard that song the whole way through, man. I heard the first 3 lines in the verse. I said, I'm not listening to this. I said, goodness, this is evil as hell. It's evil communication. And then they remember how we said in movies, they'll put a thing to it and listen an emotional response? They'll put these filthy words telling you sinful behaviors, and they put it to a high beat. So now you love that thing, right? Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay.
I was thinking about, there was this commercial a long time ago, but I can't remember it, so that's why I'm not going to bring it up. It was a Benetton commercial, but I'm going to find it and, I'll bring it out on one of my shows or something.
Okay, all right. Well, you teach us Saturday.
Yeah.
You could. We'll
Look
see.
for it,
We'll see what we do. So music and entertainment, drugs and alcohol. These are strongholds. We're dealing with strongholds. Fornications, dishonor in marriage. It leads to broken homes, no foundation, right? Changing of kinds, the Bible calls it. That whole transgender, that LGBTQ, right? Elemental P, right? The alphabet people, like Chappelle says.
Yeah.
Right? Fornications, changing of kinds. Excuse me. Murder and robbery.
Right.
You can't even say it. You say you have to add all the rest of the letters in it.
Just keep going.
Just think about that.
Murder and robbery, covetousness, abortions. People don't think that abortions are murder. Our people do not think that that's murder. Abortions, that's comfortably known. That you can kill a child, your own child, and actually fathom some justification to do so. Deconstructing the family structure. And I'm going to read this. I don't think I sent it to you.
You know what's heavy? You say about abortion and the media put it out there to say, oh no, it's still in the beginning stages and there's a clot and this and that and the other. This is how you know it's straight up murder. If you don't kill it, it will become life. So that means life began.
That's the simplest
That's
definition
the
I've ever
simplest
heard.
definition.
Because they try to tell you, when it's a zygote, it's not alive. There's no life. What determines life? It has to. That you just killed the game with that one.
Exactly, but that shows
the mere fact that you have to kill it.
Have to terminate it.
Terminate it means that
they
it was
use
alive.
the term to show you how stupid people are.
Regardless of if its eyes was formed, if its hands were formed, you terminate it.
And they talk about no, I didn't kill anything. That's when you know the whole world is on crack. Because they can't understand simple stuff like that.
I got this. I took a picture of this in Dallas. I forgot the name of the book. This is from one of your books.
Oh, okay. That's
what's the name of the book?
The name of the book is White America they stole it, but Black America you have to return it. Richard Williams is the author of the book.
So I thought this was powerful. I said deconstructing the family structure, and they understand that is a divine thing by the Most High. It's one of the first things He told us to do when He finished His creation. He set up an ordained marriage because of what it signifies when it's done right, when it's done correctly. That's the foundation of a nation. So I'm going to read this, right? And in this book that he just mentioned, he says he quotes Genesis 2:18. Now he don't read the KJV, so I'll just read it real quick. Then the Lord said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will provide a partner for him." So the author says, a man without his family is like a lion without his teeth. He has the heart and he has the power, but he cannot overcome his prey. Bishop Nathaniel has said this another way and often does. They've allowed us to mature physically, to be the strong buck, but we are emotionally and mentally children. We look like a lion in every intent and purpose, but we don't. That's the trick, baby. We're polluted in here. So they kept us strong. So he says, a man without his family is like a lion without his teeth. He has the heart and he has the power, the physicality, but he cannot overcome his prey. A woman without her family is like a bird with a broken wing. Her ability to fly is inhibited because God made them male and female. He made them together. You shall leave and cleave to her like one flesh. So, yeah, the woman may have the outward things of a woman. She may have all the functioning parts of a woman, but she can't fly the way she was meant to fly without the husband there, without the man there in that role. And the man can't fulfill the building of a nation, even though he wants to, without the sound foundation that marriage represents. Because how do you then leave it for the next generation? How does what you built carried on if you have nothing to carry it on through into? Let me finish this. I'll take your hand. All right. It says, and worse yet, a child without his family is like a ship caught on a rough sea without a rudder. And that's a strong analogy. And it goes into this socialization. It goes into that Tom Metzger thought where without the TV, you'd have no opinion. When you have a strong marriage and strong, when the home is not deconstructed, when they haven't created that stronghold of it's okay that the mom can fulfill the role of both parents or the dad or two dads or two moms can do the same, that is broken because now you're tossed about like a leaf in the wind with diverse doctrines left and right. And that's what the children become. Why? Because the children are sponges. Going back to that programming. They'll hear things in the background. The McDonald's thing in the windows tinted laying down. Right?
At night.
At night.
We were coming from the school. It was nighttime. We were finished.
And then he goes on to say, any system that deprives a people of its family structure denies the humanity of that people. Any system that does that. And they have used that as a stronghold, as a social experiment on us. They've tried to replace the welfare. They'll tell you that came about with during the Great Depression with Roosevelt. Mm-hmm. But they modified that thing and tried to emphasize it in our communities as a replacement. I'll tell you, Northern Kingdom, they used to call welfare Wilfredo. You see a Northern Kingdom sister, you married? Nah, I'm married to Wilfredo. Because that was the provider. The welfare check and the food stamps was the provider. I don't need a man except for when I want to feel pleasure. And then even that's changing nowadays. I don't need a man at all.
They get a toy.
They get a toy.
Get a toy and a dog. And a good job. And they're done. That's it. And some peanut butter.
All right. Let me try to get through these scriptures. I have a few more scriptures. I wanted to identify the strongholds, all right? Let's get 1 Corinthians 15:33. I'm going to try to go through these a little faster so we can wrap up. I don't want to keep y'all here. 1 Corinthians 15:33.
The book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 15 and verse 33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners.
So we must all, remember how I said I hear the beat and the beat sound good, but I can't listen to the song. You can't. I don't even want to listen to the instrumental. You know, I know some brothers, like, there was a time they took like a hot beat and they'll put like biblical lyrics over it. It's already tainted for me. Even though I'm hearing the biblical lyrics, I'm hearing the nasty, vile things that are coming out of there. It's already tainted for me. Yep. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. Who's the other one that's like that? She not, everybody thinks she Northern Kingdom. She not. She a little white girl. She attacked. Ariana Grande. Man, she has some dope songs. Be like, all right, this thing is popping. Okay. And then you hear some of the songs, man. I'm like, damn, she got one talking about 69. That's the name of the song. It's called 69. And it sounds great, man. She sing good. The choreography's on point. She talking about, I'm thinking all night about how you 69'd me. And I can't wait for you to come back to oral me. Nice. That's the song. It was a hit. It was a hit. And she got a whole bunch of others. And I said, damn, I gotta start listening to this stuff. Hey, and the kids, my daughter was trying to get her body into, it's like, I had to selectively pick which of the songs she could listen to. And I could just say the hell with it all, but I know that she gonna find a way to act. So for me, I'd rather teach them what they could and not listen to than just totally take it away. I want them to be able to identify right and wrong. That's me. That's the way I try to roll at it. Not every child has that capacity. They'll tell you, yeah, behind your back, just, right? We know what it's like. I never cursed in front of my mom, but I was downstairs cursing just because I could. It wasn't even appropriate for the conversation I was having. But I would throw an F in there, or a-hole, or whatever, or S-H-I-T, left and right, just because I knew it was taboo. So it says, don't be deceived. Now that we've identified the strongholds, you must realize that it corrupts. You cannot think that any one of us is strong enough to fully not be affected by that. In some manner, shape, or form, you're affected by what you see, what you experience. If not, they wouldn't come up with socialization. They were able to play on that, right? Let's get 2 Thessalonians 2 and 8. 2 Thessalonians 2 and 8.
The book of 2 Thessalonians, chapter 2 and verse 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed.
Come on.
Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth.
So that's how we banish that wicked. Once he's revealed, God's going to consume him with the spirit of his mouth. Dealing with these scriptures here. Come on.
And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
Right. And then the destruction's going to come with the brightness of Christ's return. Come on.
Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan.
That even him is talking about Esau, Edom. He's his number one instrument to exact his will in the earth, to carry out the mission that God gave Satan. Come on.
Is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders.
So this is that deception, because he makes something that's dirty and filthy look good and clean and appealing. Come on.
And with all deceivableness.
We just read, be not deceived. He's letting you know that this enemy is coming to you with all deceivableness. Come on.
Of unrighteousness.
With unrighteous. It's dirty. Nothing he gives you is clean and good. None. Zero. We must understand that, and we must teach our children that. Nothing good. Zero. Come on.
In them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth.
Right. You need the love of the truth. Come on.
That they might be saved.
The love of the truth is that, hey, this is pollution. This is toxic. You have to come out and arise and depart from that. This place is not your rest. You too comfortable, brother. You too comfortable, sister. We got to make sure that we are not laying up treasures here that rot and corrupt, and lay up treasures in the kingdom. Let's go back to 1 Corinthians 15:33.
The book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 15.
And we're going to jump right back over here. Right? Come on.
1 Corinthians, chapter 15 and verse 33. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners.
So watch this. Now, let's go back to 2 Thessalonians. Sorry, it's a quick back and forth. 2 and 11 again.
2 Thessalonians, chapter 2, verse 11. And for this cause, God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie.
Some of us would be sent strong delusion because we did not want to receive the truth. We did not want to understand that thing. So you think he tried to impart a little knowledge on you, and he gonna make you go even more to sleep after that. He said that you would believe the lie. That's that pollution, that unrighteousness. Come on, going down to verse 12.
That they all might be damned, who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness.
Just that comfortably numb. We cannot take pleasure in the filth of this world. We cannot take pleasure in the pollutions that are here in the earth. I'm going to jump over this one. Because of this, we understand Mark 7:18 through 22. This is why the evil comes out of us. You know, when he says that evil comes from within a man, it's because we're polluted. That's the part that's like kind of unseen, that you got to fill in the gaps. That we weren't, yes, we're born in iniquity, but we weren't born with these thoughts. We weren't born with these actions, right? We had a predisposition to them. But that is a difference from having them programmed into you. That has to come by the way of socialization, by the way of all these things that are contrary to the scriptures. That's where that comes from. Because we read that and we say, damn, but from within us comes all this filthy stuff. It's because they put it there. They program it deep into you, and this is why we're polluted, all right? We're already predisposed to that infection. So what must we do? Let me get 2 Corinthians 6:17.
Chapter 6 and verse 17. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate.
That's the same thing when he says, arise and depart. Now again, I mentioned this earlier. Can we physically go anywhere? No. Read on.
Be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you.
Right. So we must be separate. How? In the ways that we conduct ourselves. Because the norms of society will tell you that we're weirdos. We're strange. We're not doing things appropriately. We're not, you guys are crazy. Your family and friends in the world will accept you more for whatever denomination of Christianity you decide to go in, even if it's opposed to their own denomination. Versus this. They'll be like, oh, yeah, you chose to be apostolic? It's all right. We were raised Catholic. You still dealing with white Jesus, so it's okay.
Yeah.
You come and try to tell them you're a special people and you've been lied to all your life. Hey, again, I think of the Matrix, like that scene where Morpheus showed Neo what the world was really like and he couldn't take it. He said, oh, he's going to pop. And he threw up and passed out. Right? Because a stronghold that's in that mind is hard to release. They defend it. There's another scene in that movie. He says, the people that are plugged in are so dependent on this system. They're so persuaded by this system that they will fight to defend it. They will fight to defend it. And that's the effect of the strongholds there. Let's get Proverbs 29:18. What's some of the ways then that we separate? What's some of the ways that we can begin to conduct ourselves differently? Proverbs 29:18.
Proverbs chapter 29 verse 18. Where there is no vision, the people perish.
Right. So first off, we must establish a vision. The law and the faith of Christ is that vision. Just like even in Deuteronomy 4:6. Keep therefore and do them, because this is your wisdom in the sight of the nations. It said they'll look at you and say, this is a wise and great and understanding nation. So we must create that vision. That it on that?
No, sir.
Go ahead.
But he that keepeth the law, happy is he.
Happy is he? Why? So it's telling you there, what's the vision consist of? It starts with the laws. Within the laws, believe it or not, brothers and sisters, it teaches you all these systems that we're put in place. Within the law is kitchen protocol. Within the law is the security detail. Within the law is the classroom schedule. Within the law is the ranks and structures that we have in the body. And so on and so forth. Within the law is treasury. And how the treasuries were run. All those things are there. Remember, everything is there. You got to stop and say, man, we ordered ourselves in ranks and then we had cities. But you don't read in detail, this is how you deal with sanitation in the city. This is how you deal with this and that. You can't. Then the book is too big. That's where the Spirit fills that in out there. So that's that vision that you have to see. You're supposed to be able to, in righteousness, see the need for a city and say, with that comes this, that, food, everything else that was like brought out yesterday. All those things go with that. And it can only be seen when you start to paint that vision. So we must work on that vision and be able to paint it in people's minds. Visualize it, but then we have to act. Because there's a lot of visionaries that don't do a damn thing. Got a lot of great ideas. Hey, I'm going to drop this idea on your lap. Hey, why don't you run with that and put a plan together? Never hear from the person again. And then they'll be mad. You didn't use my idea. The hell is this? You just dropped an idea and with no substance behind it. Nonsense. Let me get Proverbs 23:7.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 23 and verse 7. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he.
God. That's when the action comes behind it. If you really establish the vision, and not just people as teachers establishing it, but embrace it, bring that inside of you, this is the type of stuff that starts to counteract the pollution, right? Because if you don't know what a clean glass of water look like, how are you going to visualize it? So we've already taken those steps and showing you what the pollution is. So now you can look to what's clean and paint that vision. And then say, now what steps must I take to make this vision a reality? How can this be manifested so that we can move forward? Read it again.
For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Right? Come on.
Eat and drink, saith he to thee, but his heart is not with thee.
So meaning there has to be a vision. You can't just have the action without the vision. You need both of them to be there. His heart is not with thee. So you can give directives, you can give orders, but if you can't paint a vision, it's not going to last. The people aren't going to endure in those offices and stuff like that. Do you know why these security do these shifts and stand out here? And I want to say, maybe they complain in quiet, but I never heard them and seen them complain. Because they see the vision. They understand what's there and what it means and what's intended. Some people may see that and be like, man, why you even need security? Nothing ever happens. You ever stop to think that nothing ever happens because people know that there's security?
Right, exactly. Exactly.
I'm telling you, man, we are dense people. We simple as hell. But we don't have to be. We don't have to be. We've been programmed to be that way. So as you think, that's how you'll be. And we have the proof, all right? This place is constructed and built with one purpose. It's designed to keep us defiled and debased and polluted. But we have a hero. We have a Messiah, but it'll take work. Let me get Romans 3:31, and then I want the definition of established. We almost done. Romans 3:31.
The book of Romans, chapter 3 and verse 31. Do we then make void the law through faith? God forbid. Yea, we establish the law.
Right, so it says we establish the law. And a lot of times we look at that and we say, what does that mean? The law was already there. How do you establish the law? So establish, look at this definition. It's beautiful. It's perfect. When you establish, just the word itself means set up an organization, a system, or a set of rules on a firm or permanent basis. So when the Bible says we establish the law, that's me, that's you, that's everybody in here. We're working to set it up on that permanent basis. What is that permanent basis? Like you read in Daniel, it says, in the days of those kings, I will set up a kingdom that will never fall, that will never end, and that will always have that power. So right now, the laws have been fleeting, right? Sometimes we've had them, sometimes we haven't. They've always been here. So when it says we establish it, and we establish that by the very definition, by organizing, by putting systems and rules in place. And first it starts with these laws, statutes, and commandments, and then that spirit of infrastructure must come through us to now fill in the blanks where we say, okay, you got to take notes. You have to have a Bible, this, that, and that. We can't just do this. Oh, okay, yeah, we need to have a search policy. All right, we're going to search these people. We're going to do this. We need to have all this stuff set up. Like Bishop was bringing out yesterday. Without establishing those things, we would not have this, where we're here now doing this stuff. Yeah. You'd have a bunch of freaking individuals in tents all over the place doing their own thing, looking out for themselves. So the vision, it starts with the vision.
You have a ghetto.
You have a ghetto, right? You have a ghetto. You have the projects.
New York City ghetto.
You have a New York City ghetto, right? You have to think it, and then you have to take action on it. So it was never meant to be void. This is what's needed, system and organizations. That's what it says, that do we make void the law through faith? It says no. By the law, you were able to build cities. You'll be able to build yourself back to a nation. You'll be able to increase those talents and rehearse those things now. So that when I give you that kingdom that you've earned in this wilderness, you'll be able to take proper care of it. That's why if you're faithful in little, how will you be faithful in the true riches? We got to act like we in the kingdom of heaven now. Amongst each other by the actions that we take and how we deal and how we roll with each other. And that takes deliberate effort. That takes a vision. That takes action behind it. Let's go back to 2 Corinthians 10 and 4. 2 Corinthians 10 and 4.
2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 4. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds.
Right? Mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Pulling down these strongholds that they set up in there and establishing God's strongholds in our people and in our minds. Come on.
Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God.
That's the pollutions in this earth. Every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God is anything that basically comes out of this place. We must establish those things. Come on.
And bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ.
Because the pollution will not be fully obliterated till Christ returns and sanitizes this place. So it will always be present with us. So that's why we must bring into captivity all those thoughts that are contrary to this. So I have a little letter next to my thing where it says imaginations, right? Some of you may have that in your Bible. And mine says reasonings. Reasonings. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon 7 and 20. It says reasonings.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7 and verse 20.
And reasonings means thoughts. Come on.
The natures of living creatures, and the furies of wild beasts, the violence of winds, and the reasonings of men.
Right? So Solomon is letting you know, when it says casting down imaginations, it says reasonings. It says the reasonings of men. Going back to Colossians 2 and 8. Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, through the rudiments of this world. Another way to say that is the reasonings, the thoughts. Those reasonings are those things in the list that I gave to you. Christianity, the school system, right? Things like Islam and all this other stuff. Those are the reasonings. We cannot gather together in those things. We were not meant to gather together in those things. Contrary-wise, we read in Leviticus that it would defile us if we tried to gather together in those things. The only thing that will unify us is this vision and this Bible and these thoughts. So where do we get those proper thoughts from? Let's go to 1 Corinthians 2:16. 1 Corinthians 2:16.
1 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 16. For who have known the mind of the Lord, that he may instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ.
Do you know what that's basically saying? Right? That we know the mind of the Lord. It says, who have known it? Nobody's instructed him. But then he says, but. Right? But means, I'm going to tell you something here, right? There's a little more left here. He says, but we have the mind of Christ. And if we have the mind of Christ, that means the Most High has shown us a portion of his mind to us. You know when you read where it says his thoughts are higher than ours? Right? His ways are higher than ours. But he's given us a dispensation of that. Because we have the mind of Christ. Through Christ, he was able to communicate and trickle down what he would not be able to tell us face to face. Through his prophets and these scriptures, he gave us a glimpse into his mind. And he did that only for us. He did that only for us. I tell you, it puts a new frame of mind where it says, don't take his name in vain. God has given us a piece of his ways and his thoughts through his son Christ. So our reasonings need to be Christ reasonings. Our thoughts need to be Christ thoughts. And that's how you start to decontaminate yourself. They created pollution to destroy our nation. But we have that hero, that Messiah, that mediator, for us to be able to have. It's not like we don't know what God wants from us. It's not like we don't understand what his expectations are. They are plain for us to see there. But we're too focused on the distraction of the pollutions here, of being comfortable in this place. That's why Micah had to say, arise and depart, this is not your rest. And at that time, it was harder for us in the time of Micah. And yet there were people among us that were comfortable in captivity. You saw that in the wilderness when we came out of Egypt. And we said there, at least there we had onions and leeks. We had different things that we could, and that's how it is. That's why I joke about brothers bringing PlayStations. Man, they went to Oklahoma one year, someone brought a damn PlayStation to take in there. Brought a damn PlayStation to his tent. Your mind ain't in the right spirit for you can't leave the world behind for a little bit. You know? It's like, damn. Hey, when I was getting the RV, I said, I have a TV. I said, damn, I could hook my PlayStation up to that. For a brief second, it was a hot second. I said, what the hell's wrong? I smacked myself. I said, what the hell's wrong with you? I said, oh my goodness, Lord, can you imagine that? Bishop, man, Bishop would Captain, you all right? What the? let me, where am I? We did 2:16. Let me get John 15:15. So we must think and move according to God's plans as delivered unto us by Christ. All right? John 15:15.
The book of John, chapter 15 and verse 15. Henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father I have made known unto you.
And there's your proof. I'm not speaking on my behind when I said that God has given us a little bit of knowing his mind. Nobody instructs that power. And through Christ, just like you read here plainly in John, he says, now that doesn't make you servants anymore. He goes, but that makes you friends, because now you know the plan. Right? Now you understand what needs to be done. He said, all things that I have heard of my Father, meaning what God encoded me and directed me to do in the earth when I came here, he goes, all those things have been revealed to you. So we have what is necessary. What is needed for us to accomplish the mission is here already. And it always was. It just needed to be opened up to us. We needed to wipe the muck out our eyes, clean the wax out our ears, all the pollutions that's been fed unto us, to be able to fully embrace it and take the actions behind it. Right? Because the Lord is a man of actions, right? By actions are we weighed. Not by how we feel, not by how we thought. It's talking about faith. And it says, you demonstrate faith. James said, I will show you my faith by my works. They ain't no, well, you don't know my level of faith. Faith is demonstrated. You were talking about Hebrews 11 and 1. That whole chapter, he talks about forefathers' examples of how they demonstrated their faith. There ain't no, yes, I'm faithful. Yes, I'm telling you, we get complacent in years because Esau puts a lot of value in years. So we think we've sat here, we've been here for a while. But then you stop demonstrating that faith. You go into autopilot, you get comfortable. That's why he said, arise and depart. That's why I said that thing infects. A lot of times we think that means people who don't have this understanding. No, that's talking to us in here. Faith must be demonstrated. You show your faith by your works. That's why these men on security are on post like they are. That's why how many volunteers? 200 volunteers? Because those are faithful brothers and sisters. Because they understood the vision, they see that, and whether they were aware of it or not, they had that vision that Christ planted in their mind. You brothers and sisters who stepped up to be in those offices have the mind of Christ. All of us who say, put this on me as I live my life, yes, I will be that servant. I will do my reasonable service. You have the mind of Christ. The work and the action must be fulfilled. Let me get Job 15 and 8. We have the plan, it just needs to be executed.
This is the book of Job, chapter 15 and verse 8. Hast thou heard the secret of God, and dost thou restrain wisdom to thyself?
Right? So he's asking that as a rhetorical question. Guess what? We have heard the secret of God. Christ said, unto us the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven are revealed. We have heard the secret of God. He said, and if you heard that secret, knowing that there's more people that need to hear it, are you supposed to restrain that to yourself? And I'm going to tell you something. That's more than just teaching, brothers and sisters. There's no coincidence when Christ said, a city that is on a hill cannot be hid. Because he's talking about us showing this example of organization, these elements of government as a city. And you don't hide that. That gets noticed. They can laugh at you in the street defending their strongholds on Christianity, but they can't gainsay and deny the level of structure and organization that we've done, that we've put together, and very specifically the purple and gold. They know who we are. They know where we stand. Our enemies and our haters have said as much. They the one to watch, and I don't say that boastfully. I say it in hopes that it puts a fire under each and every one of us to continue to be committed and do that thing, because you are certainly in the right place.
That's right.
Because I can guarantee you these other places are not on this level yet. The Most High is dealing more and more with the people that are here now. And all those gifts and all those talents are here now. Those surveyors, those superintendents, those city engineers, in the spiritual sense, they're here now to guide those talents as they come, to make use of those things, to carry out the mission that God has put forth. So those of us who see the vision and understand the mission, we cannot keep it to ourselves. I got 3 more scriptures, Luke 17 and 20. Luke 17 and 20.
The book of Luke, chapter 17 and verse 20. And when he was demanded of the Pharisees when the kingdom of God should come, he answered them and said, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation.
The kingdom of God is not, oh, well, I'm faithful. I feel my faith. Can you feel it? Can you feel how faithful I am? It cometh not with observation. It takes work. It takes vision. It takes fighting the pollutions, because we're building that thing up now in this polluted place. Come on.
Neither shall they say, lo, here, or lo, there. For behold, the kingdom of God is within you.
Why? Because everything that's needed for every administration and every office that's needed for us to build that government, God's government, to build that city is here now. It's within us. Don't mean the good feeling. Don't mean like Care Bears, like we just gonna open it up and light's gonna shine through. It takes action behind those things. Let me get Zechariah 13:1. This was brought out yesterday.
The book of Zechariah, chapter 13, and verse 1. In that day there shall be a fountain open to the house of David and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem for sin and for uncleanness.
Now this is dealing with Christ. That fountain that will be open to us. It said for sin and uncleanness. Remember I said we have a hero. We have a decontaminant. And that was Christ to come and clean us from pollution and to help us wash it off of us as we mire in the muck that's out here in this earth. It says that would be brought unto us for sin and for uncleanness. Come on.
And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will cut off the names of the idols.
Clean. We're going to get clean because idols are pollutants. Come on.
Idols out of the land, and they shall no more be remembered. And also I will cause the prophets and the unclean spirit to pass out of the land.
That's that sanitization that'll happen when Christ comes with that hot fire. In the meantime, verse 1 is what we have now with the directives that we're given. We have a fountain for now, right? So what? Fountain, think of it like a shower, right? You shower up, you start to get dirty. The minute you get out the shower, you're starting to sweat, you're starting to stink. As the day go on, you get dirty, you work, and then what do you do to get clean? You jump back in the shower. But when Christ returns on the scene, there ain't gonna be no more dirt in the earth. There ain't gonna be no more pollutants in the earth. So we'll be forever clean at that point. Last scripture. Let me get Micah 4 and 6. We're gonna do 6 through 3, and then I'll turn it over to you, Bishop. I see you writing a lot of stuff.
Well,
I know you're trying to let me. I know you're trying to let me flow.
Yeah.
Micah
I
4.
ain't got a lot going on.
Micah 4 and 6.
Yeah.
The book of Micah, chapter 4, and verse 6. In that day, saith the Lord, will I assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted.
We're talking about that same day when Christ returned. Remember, he said, we have a vision of his mind, of God's mind through Christ. And he says, in that day, he's going to continue to clean us up. Come on.
And I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast far off a strong nation. And the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever.
Even forever. Forever, ever, ever. Come on.
And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion.
That's us. That's that vanguard. We're that stronghold of the daughter of Zion. Because in this dark place, in this dirty place, we're showing the world light. We're showing them that we can come together and not have violence and crazy revelings and robberies and murders and all those strongholds that we read about. That's that tower of the flock. Come on.
Unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem.
Well, how? Because we will be found worthy, thou good and faithful servant. So unto you will be given this many cities and that many cities. Because you put that in and you increase that talent. You brought those gifts to help get these people ready for this reign. Come on.
Now why dost thou cry out aloud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perished? For pangs have taken thee as a woman in travail.
So he's saying, why do we cry aloud? Is your king gone? He's just not here for now. He says, so now pangs have taken us as a woman in travail. So he's letting you know, I've just told you what's in store for you. Your king's not gone forever. It's just for a dispensation of time. So he goes, now you're going to have to deal with the pains and struggles of not having a leader. So there's going to be pains as we labor to try to govern ourselves to show us that we're worthy to have Christ as our king, to rule over us. I think you read in Romans, is it Romans 8, where he says they seek a further country? Am I off? Hebrews. So he says they seek a further country, right? And then he goes on to say where God is not ashamed of them. Letting you know that the Most High, when we're in this pollution, is ashamed of us. It's like you look at a kid that committed a crime. I didn't raise you that way.
11 and 16.
Why'd you do that? Yeah, read it real quick. Read it real quick. I'm not trying to extend it. Read it real quick. We're on the last verses here in Micah.
Hebrews 11 and 16.
This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 11 and verse 16. But now they desire a better country, that is, in heavenly. Wherefore God is not ashamed to be called their God.
Right? He's ashamed to be called our God now because he sees this transgenderism. He sees this Sodom agenda. He sees us flocking to Christianity. He sees us rolling in the mud and not fighting it, not building the nation and following the directives that he gave us. So he says, listen, I am going to grant you a kingdom where you'll not be ashamed. Why will he not be ashamed of us? Because we'll be sanitized. The pollutions will be out of the earth. We won't have to worry about those things. Like I said, it's like looking at a kid that did something wrong and you're let down. You're disappointed. You're angry. You're disappointed. You're discontent. You feel shameful. I disown you. Now, you committed that crime, I disown you. Right? You better, my mom used to tell you better not come to a baby in this house and you're not married. I'm kicking you out. I'll disown. It was a shameful thing to have children out of wedlock, like they say. Let's go back to Micah.
The book of Micah, chapter 4 and verse 10. Be in pain and labor to bring forth.
Why are we in pain? Because we don't have the king with us. We don't have that with us right now. We're in pain because we're wading through pollutions. It says, but in that pain, you're going to labor to bring forth. Come on, bring forth what?
O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shalt thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt go even to Babylon. There shalt thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies.
And it don't mean we just wait there in these places, because he just said you're going to deal with all these afflictions and all these pollutions, but you still have to labor within that. You're still going to have to, instead of getting rivers of running water that are clean and pure and pristine, instead of getting every tree that's good for meat in the garden for you, you're going to have to, by the sweat of your brow, do this. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to deal with pollutions. You're going to have to see the things that will drive you mad about how filthy it is in the earth. Come on.
Now also many nations are gathered against thee, that say, let her be defiled.
Let her be defiled. Going back to that Judith 5. Many nations, they are confederate against us to defile us. Come on.
And let our eye look upon Zion.
They're always watching. Everything that they do, every plan that they make, their eye looks upon Zion. They look upon Israel and they make their agendas and their plans to maintain their rulership by subverting ours. Come on.
But they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they his counsel.
But we do, because God, through Christ, has given that unto us. Come on.
For he shall gather them as the sheaves into the floor. Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion.
To thresh, right, is like dealing in the field, right? When you're cutting it down. So he's letting you arise and thresh. Does that mean go out and start trying to, by physical warfare, take this place down? No. We thresh in the labor that's here. Building ourselves up, cleaning the pollution, establishing governments, systems, and order. Come on.
For I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thy hoofs brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people. And I will consecrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth.
So we're going to get all the earth. That's the abundance of all things, like we read in Deuteronomy 28, right? 47, he said, because you didn't want to do it for the abundance of all things. He said, you're going to get the abundance of all things in this. If only you just overcome the pollutions that are in there and follow my directives, all right? That's all I got. I don't know if y'all got anything, all right? I know I took a little time, but I want to make sure I got it out.
Hey, give the Lord a hand. Captain Joshua, you really laid out a heavy class today. Thought-provoking, and I like classes like that causes us to think. As Captain Joshua pointed out, I was up here just making little notes about things, because the little points that he was saying throughout the class that I thought was very, very important. And, his class was off the chain, especially when he was bringing up about how we are socialized into a behavior, and we are not even cognizant of it. We think that this is normal, and we've been totally socialized into something that God did not make. Okay? But it's time for us to get out of it. He also made a point about the secrets that the Most High. You realize that with this Bible and we being the people of the Most High, we can tell the future. Do you realize that? You got people talking about some getting their hands red and cars and all that bull. You know, her that palm reading and all that stupidity. This right here is the book. We know the future according to this Bible. And that's a heavy thing to know. And the Most High said that I give my secrets unto my people, the prophets. Okay? So that makes us a hell of a people. There was another part that I was thinking about in terms of, because you mentioned about the matrix, okay? And like I said, that we've been socialized into this numbness, where we call this, where we think that this is normal. This is not normal. We've been morphed into this comfortably numb reality, okay? And it's time for us to have our thoughts shifted into godlike thinking, okay? And I've used this example when I was in New York. I mentioned about the brother that'll wake up in the morning, his alarm clock goes off. When he gets up, he gets showered up and all of that. Then if you're living in a city, you have to, mass transit. So you go to your subway, your train is set to be there at, let's say, 6:45 or whatever. You get on the train takes you to work. When you get to work, you punch in your clock, you do your work. Then when the lunchtime comes, you go to your lunch shop, get your sandwich or whatever, then you come back to work, and then you finish your shift, then you go back home. We don't think about all of the different elements or the systems that are involved in you just merely waking up in the morning and go to the job and come back home and then you get your paycheck. Time is what unifies them all. Time is where your alarm clock rang and you got up. Time dictated what time you needed to be at the train station to make sure that the train is there. But guess who else is following time? The conductor, the train engineer. He says that my schedule says that I need to be at 125th Street at 8:40 or what I say 6:40, so that the people that are waiting for me can get on that train and I take them to the job. When they get to the job, they go punch in, handle the business there. When the lunchtime comes, the man that's making the sandwiches, he's already prepared to deal with this influx of people coming into his shop to get the sandwiches. And once they eat, they go back to work, and then when their shift is over, they go back home. I say all of this to make this point. Somebody had to organize all of that. Somebody had to organize a city, had to organize a transit system, had to organize when the person goes to lunch, he's going to get his food, he's going to come back and make sure that that job is, let's say he makes clothing, and let's say it's a textile area. Those people are depending on, the boss there is depending on the workers to get there to make sure that those things get done. It's all kinds of systems that are linked together that make the whole city run. The upsetting thing about this is that we would go through and live throughout all of these systems and never think about the mind that it takes to put all of that together. We don't even think we're in the total matrix. We're not even thinking about, wow, all of these different systems are working and they don't even know each other. The conductor don't know the man that made the sandwich. The boss don't know the boss that you work for don't know anything about the conductor or the engineer or what train you got on. But time unified them all to make sure that you could get from point A to work to point B, then back to your home where you can do it all again tomorrow. That's a thought. Somebody had to think of that. But we've been so socialized into watching TV and TikTok and all this foolishness that thoughts like this don't even come across our minds. That's letting you know that we've been totally messed up. So we got a job to do. And I think the Most High that I'm in the group that's going to get it done. I'm in the nation that's going to get it done.
That's right. Lego.
Israel is back.
We back.
Israel is back.
We
got
back.
the nations running scared because Israel is back. All lies on us, cause we keeping them laws. When the Lord return, Babylon will fall. Precepts solid. We got them on lock. God's chosen people with Christ as our rock. Israel is back.
We back.
Israel is back.
We back.
You heathen, get ready for our whip to crack.
Damn.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.